Chapter 1430. Damned Guhan, why haven't you come back yet? Are you really going to abandon these humans? Fleeting Time's tears flowed down his cheeks as he looked at the lifeless bodies lying on the streets. It was as if they had lost all hope. Fleeting Time's tears flowed down his cheeks as he spoke to someone in his heart. Liuyan Ling flew over the normal area and entered the core area. This area was already filled with humans. Liuyan Ling flew forward with familiarity and quickly arrived in front of a small building. Here, a middle-aged woman and a pregnant woman with a big belly were walking through the crowd. They continuously handed out bread to these people, and in exchange, they thanked them again and again. Why are you still living here? Shouldn't you have moved to the fleeting time gap? Liuyan Ling landed and said angrily, "It's Frost Jendi. It's Frost Jendi. It's Frost Jendi." The people nearby suddenly began to cry out. Then, they all knelt on the ground and began to call out Frost Jendi's name. "Frost Jendi, Your Majesty, please save me, I'm so hungry. Your Majesty, please save my child. He's only 5 years old. Please take him to the fleeting time gap and let him live." Countless people began to cry out. If this was 10 years ago, perhaps Liuyan Ling's heart would have softened. But the current Frost Jendi had already learned to be cold. She ignored these cries and walked in front of the old woman and the pregnant woman. Then, she said those angry words. "It's fine, we'll go. Wait until we give out all the food, then we'll leave." The middle-aged woman lowered her head. She didn't dare look at Frost Jendi in the eye. "Mom, what are you saying? We were clearly kicked off the train yesterday. Why don't you let me tell Frost Jendi, Your Majesty?" The pregnant woman suddenly said angrily. The middle-aged woman immediately stopped talking. "What's going on? Big sister Wen Maiyun, tell me, what's going on? Why would anyone stop you?" Liuyan Ling questioned loudly. That's right, this middle-aged woman who looked to be in her 50s was Guhan's maid, Wen Maiyun, and the pregnant woman beside her was naturally Long Xiaoya. "They said that I'm too old, and that there's no value in going there. They said that I can't give birth to humans anymore, and that it's better to stay here and wait for my master to come and save me," Wen Maiyun said with her head lowered, and tears began to drip down her cheeks. "These bastards." Liuyan Ling cursed, then looked at Long Xiaoya and said, "What about you? What's the matter with you? You're a pregnant woman. Can't you reproduce for humans? Do they have any reason to reject you?" They said that if I couldn't give birth after 20 years, the baby in my stomach must be a yuan ku, or even a rock. They said that my value is not as high as my mother's. Long Xiaoya suddenly cried. "Bastard! They want to cut off Guhan's roots." Liuyan Ling angrily swung her sword into the air, and the entire sky instantly let out an explosive sound, giving everyone in the core area a fright. That's right, the child in Long Xiaoya's stomach was Guhan's child. It was said that before Guhan entered the seamless corridor, he made a trip back to Yuzhang City and gave Wen Maiyun a large sum of money. He wanted to cancel the maid contract between Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya and set them free, because Guhan didn't know how long it would take for him to come out. But Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya refused, and in the end, they even had sex with Guhan. In the end, it wasn't until 3 years later that Long Xiaoya found out that she was pregnant. At first, everyone thought that it was the child of Long Xiaoya and a wild man outside. Lu Shihua was so angry that he almost chased Long Xiaoya out. But Long Xiaoya swore to the heavens that she had not had any contact with any man in the past 3 years. So, they extracted a little of the child's cells in Long Xiaoya's stomach. After a genetic test, they found that it was really Guhan's child. But it was too strange to find out that she was pregnant only after 3 years. In the end, they found out that the pregnancy was the least serious. After a full 20 years, the child still hadn't been born. If it wasn't for the fact that Long Xiaoya's stomach had gradually grown larger over the past 20 years, and the test found that the fetus in her stomach was still full of life, perhaps everyone would have thought that Long Xiaoya was pregnant with a rock. It was also because of the existence of this child that Liuyan Ling and Lu Shihua took special care of the mother and daughter. This was probably the only bloodline that Guhan had left in this world. If Guhan really didn't come back, They would definitely do their best to protect this child. So when Ying Zheng decided to let some people go to the fleeting time gap, Liu Ling immediately arranged for Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya to go to the fleeting time gap. At first, Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya were unwilling and wanted to continue waiting in Yuzhong City for Guhan's return. But now, Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya found that they couldn't get on the train to the fleeting time gap. It must be Ying Zheng. It must be this guy who did it. Liu Ling cursed. She immediately grabbed Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya's hands and brought them through the void to Yuzhong City Station. There was still an armored hover train that hadn't left yet. Because 12 Zhu Wu would arrive in Yuzhong City in 2 hours, this armored hover train would be the last one to go to the fleeting time gap. Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya only had this last chance to go to a safe place. Only Guhan's child was left. Get on the train. Remember to tell me that you're safe when you get there. Liu Ling pulled Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya onto the train. Before the train attendant could finish his words, Liu Ling glared at him. Liu Ling was, after all, Jendi. If she wanted to force them onto the train, the attendant couldn't do anything. He could only use his personal terminal to secretly inform his superior to come over. But what Liu Ling didn't expect was that when she forcibly arranged a seat for Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya, a man dressed in black walked over and frowned at Liu Ling. Your Majesty, this isn't appropriate. Without His Majesty's written approval, no one is allowed to arrange for people to enter the fleeting time gap. Not even you are an exception. You promised this during the meeting of the Sword Committee. Lu Yin, how dare you say such things to me? Don't you know who these two people are? Liu Ling turned around angrily and glared at the man in black. Wen Maiyun and Long Xiaoya also looked at him sadly. They couldn't believe that the man standing opposite of Liu Ling was Lu Shihua's brother, the brother of their master's disciple, Lu Yin, who had lived with them for almost 10 years. I'm just following His Majesty's orders, that's all. His Majesty ordered me to protect this armored hover train, so I have to ensure the safety of everyone on the list. As for those who aren't on the list, they can't stay here. They have to leave, Lu Yin said coldly. Very good, Lu Yin. You've grown up. Have you forgotten who trained you to be like this? Liu Ling looked at the ingrate coldly. Of course it was His Majesty who trained me, Lu Yin said calmly. If it wasn't for His Majesty using Zhu Wu's essence blood to help me grow, I wouldn't have the power I have now. I will only do my best for His Majesty. As for the others, that's all in the past. There's no point in talking about them. 21 years ago, Guhan had accidentally given Lu Yin a sovereign's blood. As a result, Lu Yin had awakened and become an ancient sword wielder. This had made Lu Yin incredibly excited, and he felt that he could finally become strong. However, what he discovered next made Lu Yin feel despair. Lu Yin found that normal methods could not increase his sword essence, and he could only rely on sovereign's blood to increase his sword essence. Actually, it was very easy for Lu Yin to obtain sovereign's blood. After all, his sister was the head of the Sword Committee. It was normal for her to secretly open a back door and provide sovereign's blood to Lu Yin. However, with Lu Shihua's personality, she would never do something like that. So, she resolutely rejected Lu Yin's request for sovereign's blood 5 or 6 times. As a result, Lu Shihua and Lu Yin had a falling out. Lu Yin said that he wanted to go train alone, and he didn't want to see his heartless sister anymore. Lu Yin disappeared for 10 years. When Lu Yin appeared in front of Lu Shihua again, he had become Ying Zheng's loyal subordinate. The reason was simple. In addition to sovereign's blood, the blood of the Wu people could also increase Lu Yin's sword essence. With Ying Zheng's help, Lu Yin had become a spirit sword wielder. As the saying went, milk was mother. Only Ying Zheng could help Lu Yin grow, so Lu Yin naturally became Ying Zheng's right-hand man. He had followed Ying Zheng through life and death for so many years, especially after Ying Zheng had become Zhu Wu. Ying Zheng had even used a drop of Zhu Wu's blood to help Lu Yin become a spirit sword wielder. Since then, Lu Yin had become completely loyal to Ying Zheng. He didn't even care about his friends and family, and his mind seemed to only listen to Ying Zheng's orders. Don't force me to kill you, Lu Yin. Liu Ling's sword was placed against Lu Yin's neck. You know how strong I am. I only need one strike to kill you. Liu Ling said coldly. I order you to protect the safety of these two people. Escort them to the fleeting time gap. Take care of them and give them the best living environment. You cannot mistreat them. I'm sorry, I definitely can't do that. They have to get off the carriage. Lu Yin's reply was extremely firm. Then aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Liu Ling's sword was already in Lu Yin's neck. If Her Majesty Frost Jendi is willing to kill a spirit sword wielder who has made great contributions to humanity for the sake of two normal people, then Frost Jendi can do it. If I, Lu Yin, even frown, then cut my neck. Then I'm not worthy of my surname Lu. Lu Yin's words were completely out of Liu Ling's expectations. At the same time, he had completely grasped Liu Ling's weakness. After all, Liu Ling could not kill Lu Yin. Just as Lu Yin had said, he had made great contributions to humanity. More importantly, he was Sword Immortal Shihua's only brother. He was also Lu Shihua's only blood relative. How could Liu Ling let Lu Yin die? This time, even if Liu Ling was Jendi, she would still be at a loss. Fine. Then tell Ying Zheng that if he doesn't let these two leave, then I will personally escort them to the fleeting time crack. Furthermore, the fleeting time crack is the territory of the Liu Nian family. I have the right to forbid anyone who is not welcomed by the Liu Nian family. I'm sorry, but Ying Zheng is not welcomed by the Liu Nian family. Liu Ling said coldly. Lu Yin furrowed his eyebrows. He opened up his gadget and began communicating with Ying Zheng. Finally, Lu Yin nodded. His Majesty has said that he can only approve one more person. The 12 Grand Wizards will arrive in 2 hours, but you'll need at least 8 hours to make a round trip. If you're willing to disregard the lives of 400 million people just to protect the safety of 2 people, then you can go ahead, Your Majesty. I, Lu Yin, won't stop you, and I won't dare to stop you. You. Liu Ling was completely speechless. It was just as Lu Yin had said, she could not leave at this time. Daughter, you go alone. Mother will be satisfied as long as you give birth to Master's child. Mother is already in her 60s, and has lived enough. Go. When Maiyun suddenly stood up and said to Long Xiaoya, she quickly jumped out of the window. At this moment, the armored hover train began to sound its horn, indicating that it was about to depart. That's it then, Liu Ling said helplessly. Even though she had already ascended to the throne, she was still powerless in this situation. She could only pat Long Xiaoya on the shoulder and tell her to live well before jumping off the train as well. She disappeared into the void. She still had a lot of things to do. She couldn't waste any more time here. Goodbye, Xiaoya. When Maiyun looked like she had aged 10 years as she watched the train slowly depart. She knew that this was most likely the last time she would see her daughter. She waved her hand at the train in loneliness. She watched as the train moved faster and faster, until the back of the train disappeared in front of her. The other end of the platform, which was blocked by the train, appeared in front of Wen Maiyun. Xiaoya, you. When Maiyun suddenly fell to the ground. This was because at this time, on the other end of the platform, Long Xiaoya was still standing there, holding her big belly and smiling at her mother. Why are you so stupid? Aren't you courting death? You want Master's child to die with you, Wen Maiyun cried, then slapped Long Xiaoya's face. No. Long Xiaoya hugged her mother tightly. I have a feeling that the child in my stomach is jumping. It's jumping for joy. It has already sensed its father. He is already here. Chapter 1431. How's the situation? On the city wall, Ying Zheng asked Lu Yin, who had just returned. Long Xiaoya had already boarded the carriage and was ready to leave, but in the end, she jumped down herself. So now, these two are still in the city. Lu Yin replied. Sigh, Brother Guhan, don't blame me, Yaoguang, for doing you wrong. I have to cut off your last bloodline. It's you, a woman, who has failed to live up to expectations and walked into a dead end. You can't blame me for this. Ying Zheng sighed, then pulled himself together and said, Now, immediately send an order to all the sword-bearers guarding Yuzhang City. Have them all come to the city wall. We are going to fight to the death. Yes. Lu Yin nodded. Also, Keep the newly built large-scale quantum teleportation array open at all times. Have the sword bearers on the other end of the quantum teleportation array report the situation to Yuzhang City every minute. If they discover that the other end of the teleportation array has been discovered by Yuan Ku, let me know immediately. Do you understand? Ying Zheng said again. Yes, I understand. Lu Yin immediately left to make the arrangements. At this time, only Ying Zheng's lonely figure was left on the city wall. Just watch, Guhan. I will not be inferior to you. I have made all the arrangements. I will definitely protect the lives of most of the sword bearers. I will protect the last hope of mankind. I will become the savior of mankind forever. Ying Zheng clenched his fists and said. He was the first emperor who created the world, and now, he was still the first emperor who saved mankind. He was the emperor. As time passed, more and more sword bearers began to appear on the city wall. From time to time, there would be void gates opening on the city wall. This meant that an immortal sword tier sword bearer had arrived on the city wall. These immortal sword tier sword bearers all gathered around Ying Zheng at the same time, looking like they would follow Ying Zheng's lead. As the war continued to advance over the past few years, with his excellent commanding ability, Ying Zheng had successfully gained the right to command all the highest combat strength of the human race. At the same time, under the glorious banner of the survival of the human race, he had gathered every immortal sword-bearer, and made them carry out Ying Zheng's orders faithfully. They were almost like Ying Zheng's subjects. In reality, even the other two Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers obeyed Ying Zheng's orders. Although they still felt that there was something strange about Ying Zheng's background, Ying Zheng's commanding ability proved that Ying Zheng was the best leader of the human race. For the sake of the human race's future, the two Emperor Sword-level sword-bearers obeyed Ying Zheng to the greatest extent. Therefore, Ying Zheng had now become the nominal and de facto leader of the entire country. In terms of authority, he was not much different from Qin Shi Huang. The entire human world would move because of his orders. His orders could be carried out to the entire human world. He was now the only emperor. He was now the only human emperor who had the power to control the life and death of all of mankind, excluding the immortal sword-bearers and Ying sword-bearers. He had indeed achieved the prestige and height that he had once achieved. After all the immortal sword-tier sword-bearers had arrived, another void door opened. A hunchbacked old man with a head full of white hair walked out of the void door. Seeing this old man appear, all the immortal sword-tier sword-bearers showed a respectful expression. Greetings, Your Majesty Long Shijendi. Yes, this white-haired old man was Long Shijendi of the past. After 20 years, especially the year-long battle to defend the city of London, Long Shijendi, who had consumed a lot of physical strength and qi and blood, had become extremely old. He was almost the same as Haotian Jendi of the past. It seemed that he was only one step away from becoming an immortal. However, Long Shijendi still appeared on the city wall. This was undoubtedly a huge burden for Long Shijendi, who was in an extremely old state. Once Long Shijendi used too much power in this battle, Long Shijendi would definitely die. However, the Dragon Lion Sword Emperor still appeared. He appeared here without any fear of death. Father, you don't have to show up until the last moment. Among the immortal sword-tier sword-bearers, a middle-aged sword-bearer held Long Shijendi's arm and looked at the extremely old Long Shijendi with tearful eyes. He was naturally Long Shijendi's son, the sword spirit of the past. However, the sword spirit of the Gui Palace had successfully taken a step forward and become the sword immortal of the Gui Palace, as well as the leader of all the survivors of London. No. From the moment London was destroyed, I was already at the last moment. Long Shijendi pushed away the hand of the sword spirit of the Gui Palace, supported himself on the city wall, and looked at the scene outside, which looked like a dark cloud pressing down on the city. I am standing here, and I will live and die with Yuzhang City. This time, I, Long Shijendi, will never retreat. Father. The sword immortal of the Gui Palace could no longer suppress his tears, and directly burst into tears. Your Majesty. All the immortal sword-tier sword-bearers were also infected by Long Shijendi's resolute momentum, and knelt down in front of Long Shijendi. The entire city wall was instantly filled with a sad atmosphere. What are you doing? Let me tell you, Yuzhong City will definitely be defended, and we humans will certainly stand proudly in this world. Long Shi Jendi forcefully hit the ground with the Emperor sword in his hand, making a deafening sound. This time, we humans will never retreat. There will only be dead sword-bearers, and no sword-bearers will escape. Yes, there will only be dead sword-bearers, and no sword-bearers will escape. The entire city wall began to be surrounded by Long Shi Jendi's voice, and finally evolved into the voices of all the sword-bearers. More than 100,000 sword-bearers gathered on the city wall and let out this kind of roar. The sad atmosphere instantly turned into a solemn and stirring atmosphere. Everyone's heart was filled with the determination to die, and their fighting spirit was also extremely high. At this time, another void gate silently opened on the city wall. Frost Jendi and Liuyan Ling walked out of the void gate. You came. Long Shi Jendi turned his head and saw Liuyan Ling in the prime of her life. His face revealed an expression of reminiscence, and he sighed. Looking at you, I seem to be looking back at you in the past. That year, you and Guhan appeared in front of me together, standing side by side. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. I knew that you would be the future of humanity. It's a pity that you've already become a sword emperor, but the Jiyu Han has disappeared. I don't know where that pitiful child is now. If he's still alive, I'm afraid he'll also become a sword emperor and ascend to the throne. With that child's power, we humans will not lose so miserably this time. Long Shi Jendi sighed, and his words also made most of the people lower their heads. About half of the immortal sword-grade sword-bearers from 20 years ago had already died, so half of the immortal sword-grade sword-bearers here had only heard of Guhan's name, but they did not know much about Guhan's past. After all, 20 years was too long. When Guhan was invincible in the world, some of the sword-bearers here had only just reached adulthood, and some were even still children. Your Majesty, why do you still mention this person? If it weren't for him going crazy and wanting to enter the seamless corridor, we humans would not have fallen to this state. I think the worst thing about humans is this Jiyu Han. He doesn't have any sense of the big picture and doesn't have any consideration for humans. He only knows how to do his own thing and care about his own happiness. What's the point of mentioning this guy? No. I think we still have to mention Guhan's matter. An immortal sword-grade sword-bearer suddenly said, people like him should be written in the history books, and use his deeds to tell future generations not to ignore the overall situation of humanity and only care about their own happiness. People like this should be left with a bad reputation for thousands of years, so that future generations will be vigilant. This immortal sword-grade sword-bearer who spoke was the youngest human immortal sword-grade sword-bearer. He was only 31 years old now, and could be considered a super genius. When Guhan last appeared, this sword-bearer was still an 11-year-old child. He was a young man, and his words were bound to be a little harsh. Moreover, this child, like Lu Yin, was an immortal sword-grade sword-bearer who had been trained by Ying Zheng. He was extremely loyal to Ying Zheng, and did not have any reverence for Guhan, so he immediately echoed Ying Zheng's words. You shut up. If I hear another bad word about Guhan from your mouth, I'll tear your mouth off. This youngest immortal sword-grade sword-bearer hadn't even finished speaking when he was slapped across the face. The one who had slapped him was naturally Liuyan Ling I. This immortal sword-grade sword-bearer wanted to argue, but was immediately stopped by Ying Zheng. Your Majesty Frost Jendi, right now is the time when humanity needs to be united. For you to attack one of the pillars of humanity right now, isn't this a little too much? Ying Zheng coldly asked. He's the one I want to beat up. If you want to stand up for him, you can fight me. Fleeting Ling retorted. That's right. Sigh. Ying Zheng let out a long sigh helplessly, then patted the head of the immortal sword wielder who had been beaten, and said sincerely, Sword Immortal Wild Wind, I apologize to you on behalf of Sword Empress Frost. Now is the time when humans need to unite as one, so please do not take this matter to heart. If you're angry, then direct it at me. I will bear all the consequences on behalf of Sword Empress Frost. No, I wouldn't dare, and I won't be angry. I know that now is not the time to be angry. Your Majesty, please don't say such things. You're making me look bad. Sword Immortal Wild Wind hurriedly said. All of the immortal sword-grade sword-bearers looked at Ying Zheng with admiration. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. What humanity needed right now was someone like Ying Zheng, someone who understood the big picture and knew how to unite. How could she be like Frost Sword Emperor? She clearly had the strongest power of the human race, but she never cared about the bigger picture of the human race. She would always argue for a lover who had already disappeared. How could such a person be trusted to lead the human race? See, this is where you can't compare to Ying Zheng. If you had half of his ability to win people's hearts, then with your Liunyan family's background, you wouldn't have given up your leadership to this person. And you're all alone, without even a single person to help you. Long Shi Jendi secretly said to Liuyan Ling through the communicator. I don't need it. Liuyan Ling coldly harumphed and immediately left. She didn't want to appear in this disgusting place ever again. Chapter 1432. Before Liuyan Ling could leave, she suddenly heard someone report to Ying Zheng, Your Majesty, there are 3 universe-level Yuan Ku approaching the city walls. They don't seem to be the Wu people's Yuan Ku. What? Didn't these Yuan Kus sign a contract with us humans? When we fight the 12 Zhu Wus, they won't attack us. Do they want to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight? Why would Yuan Kus break the contract and attack us now? Ying Zheng said angrily. This was bad news. The 12 Zhu Wus were already too much for the humans to handle. If the rest of the Yuan Kus were to attack, then the humans would really be wiped out. They're just 3 universe-level Yuan Kus. Look at how scared you are. I'll just kill them, Liuyan Ling said with disdain. As the 4th Gendis of the Liunyan family, Liuyan Ling had already practiced her family's 100,000 swords technique to the extreme. To Liuyan Ling, the 3 universe-level Yuan Kus were just appetizers. She could finish them all in less than 10 minutes. Then I'll have to trouble Frost Gendi. When Liuyan Ling volunteered to fight, Ying Zheng was naturally more than happy. And so, Liuyan Ling opened the nether gate and went down to fight. However, in less than 2 minutes, the nether gate opened again outside the dimensional wall. Liuyan Ling broke through the dimensional wall and walked in. Then, she opened her dimensional pocket and let the 3 people in. Yuan Ku. The surrounding immortal sword wielders were all startled. They looked at the 3 Yuan Kus with caution. The 3 guys were quite frightened and quickly hid behind Liuyan Ling Frost Gendi. What is the meaning of this? I need an explanation. Ying Zheng did not panic. He just frowned and asked. Don't worry, they aren't our enemies, Yuan Kus. They are our friends, the 3 gods from Egypt, Bastet, Anubis, and Isis. They are here to help us humans. Liuyan Ling said coldly. Oh, I remember now. Aren't these the 3 Yuan Kus under Sword Immortal Hongjun? I think they are also Zhe Tian Gendi's subordinates. Immediately, a immortal sword wielder who had participated in Guhan's coronation ceremony remembered. Oh, so it's those 3. Ying Zheng nodded his head, then he shook his head and said, Sword Emperor Frost, I don't care if these 3 are here to help us or not. However, we humans cannot tolerate any possibility of being breached from within, so take these 3 Yuanko away immediately. We don't need their help. F***ck, if you're that awesome, then I'll leave. Upon hearing Ying Zheng's words, Isis immediately said in an extremely displeased manner, What a shameless fellow. We're only risking our lives to help you because of Master Guhan. In the end, you guys still suspect us. It just so happens that we don't want to die yet. Let's go. No. Liuyan Ling immediately grabbed the 3 Yuan Kus. Currently, for humans, an Eon rank's combat power was very important. It could increase the hope of defending Yuzhang City. How could Liuyan Ling let go of such strong reinforcements? Ying Zheng, Liuyan Ling, can use my life to guarantee that these 3 are friends who have come to help us humans. They are not enemies who want to harm us humans. Liuyan Ling said firmly. First Emperor, I know these 3. Your Majesty, I also know these 3, and I feel that they are all trustworthy friends. This place is no different from a land of certain death. All of the Yuan bandits above the meteor realm within 1,000 kilometers have already fled. They all know that staying here will only result in them being caught up in the battle and dying. The Yuan bandits only need to sit back and watch the tigers fight. Why would they send their precious forces to die for nothing? In my opinion, these three have come here with sincerity and are willing to sacrifice their lives to help us. If we don't sincerely accept them, then who will be willing to help us in the future? Long Shijendi also said. After all, he was the most senior swordsman, and his words were reasonable. Immediately, the other immortal sword-bearers nodded in agreement. They felt that Long Shijendi was right. Yuzhang City was a place of no return. Yuan Kus only need to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Why waste their strength in such a place? Therefore, the possibility of harming humans from within was too low. It was almost impossible. Seeing this scene, Ying Zheng also knew that it was not good to refuse anymore. At the same time, Ying Zheng also knew that the appearance of these three Yuan Kus could not be any spies. There was no need for him to reject these three important combat forces just because of Guhan. Therefore, Ying Zheng nodded silently, bowed to the three Egyptian gods, and said, "I'm sorry. I was too worried and misunderstood the three of you. You're willing to risk your lives to protect us humans when we're facing a life-and-death crisis. I, Ying Zheng, am forever grateful to you and will never forget you." With Ying Zheng's sincere apology, the three Egyptian gods were satisfied and no longer said that they would leave. The news quickly spread throughout the city wall, and the swordsman on the city wall finally showed a little joy. All the swordsmen had always thought that humans would have to fight alone this time. There was absolutely no force that would come to help humans. Humans had completely become the world's orphans. However, they did not expect that Yuan Ku, who was once humanity's opponent, would take the initiative to appear in front of humans at this time and express his willingness to fight for humanity. This made the swordsman who had been in a desperate situation finally see a faint glimmer of hope. Although the power of the three universe-level Yuan Kus could hardly change the situation, humans were no longer alone. Finally, someone was willing to help humans, and the spiritual power brought by this was great. As soon as the three Egyptian gods settled down, someone immediately reported that 5 universe-level and universe-level Yuan Kus had appeared outside Yuzhang City. Liuyan Ling immediately opened the void gate and left. Not long after, the 5 Yuan Kus were also brought over. Let me introduce you. These are the freemen from Freedom City, and they are also here to help us humans. This is the universe-level Freeman Super Electromagnetic Gun, Misaka Mikoto. This is the universe-level Freeman Fantasy Killer, Mr. JJ Dangma. This is the University-level Freelancer, Miss Swe Tianlei. This is the University-level Freelancer, Miss Constant Temperature Grim Reaper, Miss Chu Chun Shuri. This is the University-level Freelancer, Miss Space Controller, Miss Shirai Kuroko, Fleeting Time Lin introduced. Oh my god! 5 more Immortal Sword Tiers have come to help us. All the Immortal Sword Tier swordsmen were shocked. They had never thought that such strong reinforcements would appear. 5 honorable freemen, thank you very much for your appearance. We humans will forever be grateful to you, Ying Zheng said with a face full of excitement. TSK, I'm not here to help you. I'm here with Big Sister. Wherever Big Sister is, we'll be there, Shirai Kuroko said in a strange, high-pitched voice. Kuroko, don't talk nonsense. Misaka Mikoto covered Shirai Kuroko's mouth and said sincerely, if it wasn't for little brother Guhan, the 5 of us would have died at Rocky's hands. Thanks to little brother Guhan, the 5 of us can reunite. So when we heard that little brother Guhan's Yuzhang City was in trouble, the 5 of us came uninvited. We hope that we can help Yuzhang City. Please, Frost Jendi, Her Majesty, feel free to order us around. No matter what orders or battles you give us, we will carry them out. Even if we lose our lives, it's no big deal. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ying Zheng said with a face full of smiles and gratitude. But in his heart, he felt terrible, as if he had just eaten dog shit. It was another 5 people who had rushed over to help him because of the cold. This really made Ying Zheng feel terrible. Oh. Another friend of Sword Immortal Hong Jun. Who would have thought that even though Sword Immortal Hong Jun has disappeared, he still has such influence? Yup, this Miss Misaka Mikoto has appeared more than once. Before Sword Immortal Hong Jun disappeared, she had already appeared 3 times to help Yuzhang City defend against our enemies. She has always been Yuzhang City's best friend. This is all thanks to Sword Immortal Hong Jun. Sigh. If Sword Immortal Hong Jun was still here, we humans wouldn't be in such despair right now. This kind of conversation continued to spread among the crowd of sword bearers. For the young sword bearers who had never felt Guhan's existence, this was the first time they had felt Guhan's existence. You see, this is the legacy that Guhan left for us humans. If it wasn't for Guhan, these friends wouldn't have risked their lives to help us. At this point, Frost Gendi's eyes became moist. Let me tell you, from now on, if I hear anyone speak ill of Guhan again, I will kill them. Don't think that I won't do it. All of the sword bearers fell silent for a moment, then said in unison, yes, we will forever remember Sword Immortal Hong Jun's legacy. Ying Zheng silently clenched his fists. He suddenly felt that even though he had become the highest leader of humanity, he still couldn't get rid of Guhan's influence. 20 years had already passed, why was it still like this? Hey, who can open the door for Bai? Don't block Bai outside. Suddenly, a drunken voice came from outside the dimensional barrier. A white-clothed Yuenko with a wine gourd in his hand and a long sword on his back floated outside the dimensional barrier. He looked at the humans on the city wall with a smile and said, "You're right, Yuenko." "Who is this?" Ying Zheng gloomily looked at this guy. Why did someone else come out? Hey, isn't this the universe-level freelancer, Mr. Li Bai? Why are you here too? Dragon Shi cried out in surprise. Even after 20 years, Dragon Shi could still recognize this person who had once been Guhan's brother and helped Guhan break into Glastonbury's stronghold. He saved a large number of natural sword ladies in Yangjing City, the poetry immortal of humanity, Li Bai. Dragon Shi, Your Majesty, I'm afraid your news is outdated. Mr. Li Bai is no longer the universe-level Yuan Ku. After a few fortuitous encounters, Mr. Li Bai has become the powerful desolate-level Yuan Ku. To be able to fight to a draw with the mayor of our free city, he is already one of the strongest existences in the world. Haha, you flatter me, flatter me. I just remembered the days when I happily drank with Brother Guhan and Miss Lucy Hua. So today, Brother Guhan's hometown is in trouble, so I, Li Bai, have come to help. Hurry up and open the door, let me in, Li Bai said happily. Oh my god. The most powerful desolate-level Yuan Ku has also come to help us humans. All the humans were completely shocked when they heard this news. For the first time, they felt that this battle to protect Yuzhang City might not be a war of death. Humans might be able to win the final victory. And all this was because of Guhan's legacy. At this moment, Guhan's name once again resounded in everyone's hearts, even if Guhan was not here at this time. Chapter 1433. 8 universe-level Yuan Kus, 1 desolate-level Yuan Kus that was said to be comparable to the mayor of a free city. Seeing these sudden reinforcements join the human side, the hearts of the swordbearers were no longer filled with despair. Instead, a ray of sunshine appeared in their hearts. Before this, all of the swordbearers were prepared to die in this battle. Not a single one of them thought that they would be able to return alive. They all treated themselves as if they were already dead, and their hearts were filled with darkness. However, with the addition of these powerful reinforcements, this battle was no longer a one-sided battle. Humanity still had the strength to fight, and humanity still had the possibility of turning defeat into victory. Everyone who survived would become the heroes of humanity, and be remembered by future generations. Thus, the atmosphere on the city walls became lively. Almost all of the swordbearers' gazes were focused on Liuonian Ling and the reinforcements by Liuonian Ling's side. This made the smiling Ying Zheng feel even more bitter. These reinforcements were all here for Guhan, so naturally, they wouldn't listen to Ying Zheng's commands. They surrounded Liuonian Ling's side, as if they were following Liuonian Ling's lead. This was because Yuan Ku knew that Liuonian Ling was one of Guhan's most beloved women before he left. Following Liuonian Ling meant following Guhan. Moreover, Liuonian Ling had worked hard to protect Guhan's reputation all these years. I need to calm down. There is nothing for me to be jealous of, and I shouldn't be jealous of Liuyan Ling. These are the humans' reinforcements. If we can really borrow their strength to defend Yuzhong City, then I will be the one who will benefit the most. I can become the true emperor of humanity, and obtain even more power than the fleeting year calendar. Ying Zheng said to himself in his heart. It could be said that the unwillingness in his heart had been alleviated a little, and a genuine smile appeared on his face. Liuyan Jendi, Your Majesty, there are some things we need to discuss. Ying Zheng adjusted his state of mind and walked to Liuyan Ling's side. May I ask what Your Majesty wants to discuss? Liuyan Ling asked calmly. Of course it's about commanding. Ying Zheng laughed and said, I never thought that the humans would have such a powerful reinforcement. It's almost equivalent to 1/3 of our human strength. Of course, this is a good thing for us humans, but it has also caused some trouble. For example, the defense plan that I've drawn up before will have to be redesigned. Do you have any suggestions? Liuyan Ling nodded her head and did not refute, because what Ying Zheng said was indeed the truth. Now that they had suddenly gained so much combat strength, it was indeed necessary to modify the original defensive plan. Then I'll have to trouble Your Majesty with this plan, Liuyan Ling said. Up until now, the plan had always been designed by Ying Zheng. Liuyan Ling rarely thought about it, so naturally, she left it to Ying Zheng to handle. Although this plan can be decided by me, the execution of the plan will depend on everyone present. I hope that the plan I give out will be carried out accurately. Therefore, the orders will be passed down to every single combat unit. At the same time, every single combat unit will have to listen to my commands. There will be no mistakes, or it will lead to a complete defeat. Sword Emperor Frost, do you understand what I mean? Ying Zheng asked. Yes, Sword Emperor. I understand. Liuyan Ling stared deeply at Ying Zheng. So he was here to take command. However, these Yuan Ku had come because of Guhan. How could Liuyan Ling hand over the command of these Yuan Kus with both hands? Furthermore, could Ying Zheng command these Yuan Ku? Don't worry, as long as Your Majesty gives me the order, I will definitely pass it on to everyone else. I guarantee that there will be no mistakes. Liuyan Ling said directly. That's good. That's good. Ying Zheng nodded his head and didn't say anything else. He directly left. After another 10 minutes or so, in the distant horizon, 10 extremely large figures suddenly appeared. These figures were at least 1,000 meters tall. They were 10 times larger than Ultraman. They were the largest Yuan Ku that humanity had ever seen. They are here. All the sword-bearers who saw this scene breathed a long sigh of relief in their hearts. The most important moment had finally arrived. The 12 Zhu Wu had finally appeared. Unlike the 12 Zhu Wu's senior wizards of various shapes and sizes, the Zhu Wu looked like a normal human being except for their exceptionally large size. There was no other difference, nor did they have any animal characteristics. The 12 Zhu Wus had a total of 10 men and 2 women. They moved forward silently. When they were about 10 kilometers away from Yuzhong City, all the Zhu Wus began to spread out in 2 directions. Finally, they formed a circle and surrounded Yuzhong City from all directions. This was also a scene that humans were very familiar with. Be it the previous battles in Yangjing City or London City, the 12 Zhu Wus had always used the same tactic. There were no changes. When all the Zhu Wus were in position, a weapon appeared out of thin air in each of their hands. They then waved the weapon in their hands and smashed it toward the dimensional barrier of Yuzhong City. Boom! After a series of tremors that felt as if the sky and earth were being split apart, everyone was shocked to find that the energy of the dimensional barrier, which was originally 100% full, had been consumed by 8%. That was to say, if there were a dozen more attacks like this, in less than a few minutes, the dimensional barrier of Yuzhong City would shatter. This was an extremely shocking amount of damage. It should be noted that when Connor, the 100-level Yuan Ku's power was wreaked in Yuzhong City, he had only consumed 0.3% of the dimensional barrier's energy with one all-out attack. Hundreds of thousands of Yuan Ku's army attacked at the same time, but they had consumed less than 1% of the dimensional barrier's energy. As a result, the the 12 Zhu Wus had consumed 8% of the dimensional barrier's energy. This was extremely terrifying. First army of swordbearers, go into battle immediately and inject the sword essence. Without waiting for Ying Zheng to give the order, the well-prepared swordbearers immediately placed their palms on the sword essence harvester on the city wall. Countless sword essences were directly injected into the dimensional barrier by the swordbearers. Because almost all the swordbearers in Yuzhang City had gathered at this moment, the massive amount of sword essences immediately filled up the dimensional barrier's energy consumption. In just 3 seconds, the 8% energy consumed was replenished, and the dimensional barrier was back to its full state. From the looks of it, the situation was not too bad. As long as the dimensional barrier's energy consumption could be guaranteed, the 12 Zhu Wus would not be able to cause any harm to humans. But everyone who had participated in the previous battles knew that this was only temporary. There was a limit to the amount of sword essences in a human's body. Now that all the swordbearers' bodies were full of sword essences, it would not be a problem for them to last for 3 to 4 days. But the problem was that it was a very long process for humans to rely on their own bodies to replenish the sword essences. If this continued, the sword essences in a human's body would be depleted sooner or later, and when the energy of the protective barrier could no longer be replenished, the human would really die. Chapter 1434. According to the plan, we'll ask Frost, Jendi, and Mr. Li Bai to attack together to eliminate Zhu Wu's Shen Ming. The rest of us will do our best to buy time for you. Seeing that the battle had begun, Ying Zheng didn't hesitate. He immediately spoke to Liuyan Ling behind him. This was Ying Zheng's strategy. Actually, Ying Zheng's strategy was very simple. He planned on killing them one by one. This was a flaw created by the 12 Zhu Wus spread out. Because the 12 Zhu Wus had surrounded Yuzhang City, every single Zhu Wus were pretty much all alone. The only ones who could support them were the 2 Zhu Wus. So Ying Zheng's plan was to gather all of his forces to kill one Zhu Wu. As long as there was one less Zhu Wu, then the balance of the battle between the humans and Zhu Wus would be much more stable. That way, their chances of victory would increase by a lot. However, this plan was too risky. If they weren't able to kill one Zhu Wus in a short amount of time, then the other Zhu Wus would come to support them. Then, the person who went to kill them would be heavily injured. In a situation where the humans only had 3 of them, the success rate of this plan wasn't higher than 1%. But now, with the addition of Li Bai, the success rate of this plan had greatly increased. It was at least 10%. So Ying Zheng couldn't help but admit that Guhan had left a very important relationship with the humans. We understand. Brother Li Bai, let's do it together, Liuyan Ling said to Li Bai. Li Bai naturally didn't have any objections. And so, the operation to kill Zhu Wu's Shen Ming began. Zhu Wu's Shen Ming was actually a very cold and elegant Zhu Wu. With a head of snow-white hair and a face like a snowy mountain, he was without a doubt the most attractive of all the Zhu Wus. However, based on their battle experience, Zhu Wu's Shen Ming's specialty was area of effect freezing. His single target attacks weren't that strong, so this was the best opportunity for the humans to break through. Killing Zhu Wu's Shen Ming was the most likely target. Naturally, the humans wouldn't let this target go. Therefore, Vibration Shenming waved the ice staff in his hand and attacked the gap behind Yuzhang City's dimensional defense wall with absolute zero cold air. 2 dazzling sword lights instantly shot out of Yuzhang City and pounced toward the space between Grand Wizard Xuanming's eyebrows. Shield. Zhu Wu's Shenming's reaction was very fast. An ice shield instantly formed in front of him, trying to block this dazzling sword light. If it was an ordinary sword light, it would have been blocked. However, the problem was that this was the full blow of 2 top existences. How could an ordinary Shen Ming's ice shield withstand it? So, in an instant, the ice shield was shattered. The sword light heavily stabbed Shen Ming was forced to take a few steps back to reduce the impact of the sword light. However, it was still too late. Shenming was besieged. I'm being besieged. Help me. Shenming screamed. The two Xianming's Zhu Wu, Chongliang, and Dejiang immediately began to move closer to Xianming's position, trying to support him. However, how could the humans let these two Zhu Wus go to support him? Ying Zheng and Long Jendi each led 25 Immortal Sword Tier Swordbearers or Universe Tier and Eon Tier Yuan Ku to face Chongliang and Dejiang. They did not hope to defeat these two Zhu Wus. They only hoped to stall them and prevent them from supporting Xianming. At this time, Xianming's battlefield had reached its limit. Liuanian Ling used the 100 million sword spell of the Liuanian family without hesitation, while Li Bai used his Green Lotus sword technique to the extreme. Both of them had reached the peak of sword techniques and had comprehended the power of rules. Their individual strength was not weaker than Xianming's. Therefore, they had the upper hand in this 2-on-1 situation. Xianming was quickly beaten back. In less than 3 minutes, there were hundreds of bloody holes on his body. His aura was not as strong as before, and he was on the verge of collapse. Very good, hold on for another 5 minutes. In another 5 minutes, we can kill Xianming, Liuanian Ling said excitedly. She seemed to see the dawn of victory. I don't think so. On the contrary, I think we should retreat. Li Bai shook his head. Liuanian Ling looked to both sides and found that the other two Zhu Wus had approached the battlefield. The two groups of sword-bearers who were resisting Chongliang and Dejiang had begun to retreat. In fact, when they saw the other two Zhu Wus appear and were about to join the battle, they kept retreating. Let's retreat. We can't fight anymore. Ying Zheng's decisive order rang in Liuanian Ling's ears. Then, Ying Zheng and the two groups of blocking forces retreated directly into the dimensional barrier. Liuanian Ling looked regretfully at Xianming, who was half dead in front of her. Although she was unwilling, she knew that they couldn't fight anymore. In at most 1 minute, the other Zhu Wus would come to support them. If she and Li Bai didn't leave now, they would be surrounded by the Zhu Wus. Therefore, Liuanian Ling and Li Bai finally gave up on killing Xianming and retreated into the dimensional barrier. This meant that the first beheading operation had failed. Upon seeing Xianming's unstable aura, the few ancestral sorcerers who came as reinforcements gave up a drop of ancestral sorcerer's blood essence without hesitation. With the help of the drop of ancestral sorcerer's blood essence, Xianming instantly recovered. He even looked stronger than before and was harder to kill. Everyone, there's no need to be depressed. I think this is a very good result. At least we know that our plan has a chance of success. If we can buy 5 more minutes, then our decapitation plan will succeed. After the operation was over, all the high-level swordbearers gathered for a meeting. Ying Zheng encouraged them. Upon hearing Ying Zheng's words, the originally gloomy atmosphere eased up a little. However, someone still sighed and said, "It's not easy to fight for another 5 minutes. It's already very difficult for us to hold off one ancestral sorcerer. Moreover, another ancestral sorcerer will come to support us every 3 minutes. If we drag this on for another 5 minutes, it means that we'll have to hold off 3 ancestral sorcerers in the end. This is simply impossible. You can hold off the attack of 2 Zhu Wus." Ying Zheng's eyes lit up when he heard this. He suddenly clenched his fist and said, "Very good. Then let's go and test it out. Let's see if we can hold off 2 Zhu Wus." Although they didn't understand what Ying Zheng was thinking, after all the swordbearers recovered their sword essence and Yuan Ku recovered his dimensional power, they once again went out to battle. However, the purpose of this battle wasn't to kill the leader. It was to see if they had the ability to hold off 2 Zhu Wus. The results proved that under the attack of 2 Zhu Wus, the human swordbearers and Yuan Kus were able to use their trump cards and the Sword Maiden's ultimate skill to hold off 2 Zhu Wus. However, this also proved one point. That was, 3 Zhu Wus were not something the swordbearers could hold off. "That's enough, that's enough," Ying Zheng said confidently. "If we can hold off 2 Zhu Wus, then we can buy Frost Jendi and Mr. Li by another 3 minutes of time. With these 3 minutes, our plan will definitely succeed." "That's impossible. I said that we need at least 5 more minutes. Do you understand? The 2 of us still need 5 more minutes," Frost Jendi said through gritted teeth. Actually, 5 minutes was a number that Liuanian Ling had forced herself to say. It required Liuanian Ling to fight with her life on the line. No, 3 minutes is more than enough. Ying Zheng shook his head and turned to Liuyan Ling. For the next battle, Liuyan Jendi, don't use your Emperor Sword Maiden. Switch to the 3-foot sword. What? Now is the time to use the 3-foot sword? Liuyan Ling exclaimed in disbelief. Of course, the 3-foot sword is our only chance to successfully kill him. Only by using the 3-foot sword can we kill Xian Ming within 3 minutes. Ying Zheng said coldly. Wait a minute, if Bai remembers correctly, isn't the 3-foot sword maiden Miss Ling's famed sword maiden? Why don't you use an Emperor Sword Maiden and instead use a famed sword maiden? Li Bai didn't understand. He hadn't been in this world for long, so he didn't know many of the secrets of humans. That's because the 3-foot sword is the human path sword maiden. It's also the only one out of all the sword bearers who can use it. Bast, who had followed Zetian Jendi for many years, sighed and said, Human path sword maiden. Li Bai froze for a moment. In his mind, a bit of information about the human path sword maiden floated up. Could it be that it's the sword maiden that can gather the life force of all humans and unleash an unimaginably strong attack? Li Bai muttered to himself. That's right. That's the sword maiden. Bast looked at Liuyan Ling, who was hesitating. If we use the human path sword maiden, we can kill Xian Ming in 3 minutes. However, if we do that, I'm afraid all the humans in the city will have their lives shortened by a year. Alright, I'll use it. After a moment of hesitation, Liuyan Ling made a difficult decision. She would agree to Ying Zheng's plan and use the 3-foot sword's power. Although this might consume a year of the lifespan of 400 million people, on second thought, it was only a year of lifespan. If this could solve the predicament that humanity was facing and save all human lives, then what was a year of lifespan? Very well. Lu Yin, go and mobilize the humans in the city. Ask them to make a wish to the 3-foot sword at the same time. Ask them to exchange their lives for the 3-foot sword's power, Ying Zheng said to Lu Yin, who was standing next to him. Lu Yin nodded and left to mobilize the humans. If they wanted to use the 3-foot sword to use the power of humans, it was not enough to just rely on the swordbearer's consent. They must receive the prayers of the common people. Therefore, before using the 3-foot sword, they had to mobilize the common people to offer themselves. In the end, Liuyan Ling put down her Emperor sword, the Sword of Firmament, and grabbed the 3-foot sword, which she had not used for a long time. Together with the other sword-bearers, Yuan Ku, they rushed out of the dimensional barrier once again and launched the second decapitation operation against Xian Ming, who had recovered his vitality. The script was still the same as last time, but the sword in her hand had been changed. With a single thought from Liuyan Ling, endless life force gathered in Liuyan Ling's hand through mysterious meridians and into the body of the 3-foot sword. The power of humans is so powerful. Liuyan Ling could not help but exclaim in admiration when she felt the terrifying power in her hand. Chapter 1435. The situation began exactly like the last time. It was still Liuyan Ling and Li Bai who took the lead to attack, while the rest of the high-end forces blocked Zhu Wu, who came to support from both sides. In the face of such a situation, Xian Ming was already very familiar with how to deal with it. She did not have the slightest fear, nor did she dodge. Instead, she chose to face the attack head-on. Xian Ming was very sure that these two people could not kill her in a short time, and she had the full support of Tu Zhu Wu, so she did not have to worry about her own safety. She could completely counterattack the opponent. With this thought in mind, Xian Ming began to fearlessly fight against fleeting Time Ling and Li Bai. However, as soon as they exchanged blows, Xian Ming quickly discovered that something was wrong. This woman's attack power had increased a lot compared to before. Just one sword strike was enough to make Xian Ming feel a chill in his bones. As an ice element cultivator, Zhu Wu could actually make Xian Ming feel cold. The power and threat in this battle could be imagined. What was more frightening was that Xian Ming found that the opponent's power was constantly drilling into her body like maggots attached to the bone. It was extremely difficult to deal with. If it was during normal times, Xian Ming could slowly dissolve this power. But at this critical moment of the battle, Xian Ming found that she could not get rid of this power at all. She could only let this power continue to hurt her in her body. Save me! Save me! Xian Ming had realized that the opponent was no longer attacking like before. She had definitely used some kind of trump card. It was very likely that she would not be able to hold on until Zhu Wu came to rescue her. Therefore, Xian Ming began to howl loudly, hoping that her Zhu Wu could come to support her faster. When the rest of the ancestral sorcerers heard Xian Ming's cry, they realized that the situation was not right. They attacked even more fiercely, which increased the pressure on Ying Zheng and the others. They began to urge lingering fleeting time to use all his strength. "Sorry, I will not waste everyone's life," Liuyan Ling shouted inwardly. Then, she pushed the power of the 3-foot sword to its limits, drawing out all the life force that belonged to humans. Then, she unleashed her most powerful killer move, the 100 million swords kill. The 100,000 sword art kill was the Liu Nian family's most powerful killing move. The user had to release all of the sword light that they could and then condense it into a massive sword of light to slash at the enemy. This was the Liu Nian family's most unstoppable move. Who knew how many powerful Yuan Ku people the Liu Nian family had used this move to kill? However, there was also a disadvantage. Once it was used, the wielder would lose all strength and enter a state of absolute weakness. He would not be able to fight for at least 3 days. By now, Ying Zheng and the others could no longer hold on. Liuyan Ling had no other choice but to draw out all the power of the mortal Dao and use the strongest killing move of the Liu Nian clan. Run! When Xian Ming saw the huge light sword taking shape in the sky, a great sense of crisis surged in his heart. Without hesitation, he chose to run for his life. This showed a huge weakness of the 12 Zhu Wu. That was, as the most powerful desolate level Yuan Ku, the 12 Zhu Wu did not have the ability to enter the void. Although they could attack the existence in the void, they could not enter the void. So, when Xian Ming faced this situation, he could only choose to run for his life. However, how could he escape the Liu Nian family's ultimate killing move? When Kanzu created this move, he wanted no opponent to be able to escape. Even the desolate level Yuan Ku was no exception. So, in the end, Xian Ming could only take the hit in fear. Frost Jendi has used his ultimate move. Everyone, retreat into the dimensional barrier. Seeing Liuyan Ling use such a magnificent move, Ying Zheng felt a deep sense of fear. He immediately ordered everyone to retreat. On the other side, Li Bai, who had already received Liuyan Ling's request, grabbed the exhausted Liuyan Ling and returned to the dimensional barrier with Longsha Jendi's help. Did it work? Everyone's eyes were fixed on the spot where the sword was flashing. Because the sword was too dazzling, the spot was still shrouded in a vast expanse of whiteness. Even Ying Zheng could not see what was happening under the bright light. After waiting for a full minute, the vast expanse of white flashes gradually subsided. At this moment, there was a huge crater the size of dozens of bird nests on the ground. This was a bottomless crater. At least from the angle of the city wall, the bottom of this crater could not be seen. This crater was at least a few thousand meters deep. The power of the sword was terrifying. Everyone couldn't help but feel a deep tremble. This sword was too terrifying. Actually, even if Kanzu used this move in the past, he would not have been able to display such a great power. The reason was very simple. Because Kanzu did not have his own sword Maiden, Kanzu could not use the lives of humans to increase his own battle strength. But Liuyan Ling was different. As long as Liuyan Ling had the 3-foot sword in her hand and the lives of humans in her hand, then Liuyan Ling could explode with even more power than Kanzu did in the past. Understanding this point, everyone's eyes deeply focused on Liuyan Ling. This was truly a terrifying woman. Just based on pure destructive power, she was probably the strongest sword wielder in human history. Xian Ming. Is Xian Ming dead? Fleeting time Ling asked Li Bai after recovering some of his energy, but he was still in a weakened state. I don't know. Li Bai shook his head. The pit you made with your sword is too deep. Moreover, the Zhu Wus have surrounded the entire pit. We can't see the situation at the bottom of the pit. But at least we can be sure that Xian Ming has disappeared from our sight. As for whether he has survived at the bottom of the pit, no one knows. Please, you must succeed. Liuyan Ling clenched her hands and prayed. After a few minutes, Humans were pleasantly surprised to find that the Zhu Wus that had surrounded the sky suddenly faced the sky and roared in unison. This roar was so mournful and tragic, as if they were sending off a guest from afar. This long whistle caused everyone to be pleasantly surprised. Could it be that they had succeeded? Was Xian Ming dead? Suddenly, under everyone's gaze, the Zhu Wu's Emperor Jiang jumped into the deep pit. After waiting for 10 minutes, Emperor Jiang climbed out of the pit. At this time, everyone could see that Emperor Jiang was holding a bright red blood bead in his hand. It's the Zhu Wu's blood bead. This is the Zhu Wu's blood bead. Ying Zheng let out a deafening shout. He was very familiar with this blood bead, because the same blood bead was also floating in his body. This was the core of the ancestor of witchcraft, and it was protected by layers of the ancestor of witchcraft's body. Once the blood pearl was taken out, there was only one possibility: the ancestor of witchcraft was dead, just like the grand wizards who had died in the hands of Ying Zheng and Ji Yuhan. We won. We won. We killed Zhu Wu's Xian Ming. Ying Zheng took the lead and began to shout. Then, the entire city wall was immersed in a sea of joy. All the sword bearers began to cry wantonly. They hugged the people around them, regardless of whether the person was a man or a woman, whether the person was their friend or their former enemy. The sword bearers forgot everything else. They just wanted to hug the people around them and cheer, expressing the joy in their hearts that was about to explode. It was not easy. It had been 4 years. 4 years had passed, and it had been 3 years since the destruction of Yangjing City. Human beings had put in countless efforts and made endless sacrifices. The original population of 7 to 8 billion had been reduced to less than 400 million. They had lost half of their population. And after paying such a high price, human beings had never defeated Zhu Wu, not even once. They had not even killed him once. Zhu Wu was still extremely powerful. With absolute strength, he slaughtered all the base cities he passed by, turning countless lives into dead souls. It was not until this moment, until today, until the city wall of Yuzhang City, that human beings had finally achieved a breakthrough victory. They had successfully killed an opponent that they had never killed before. This joy was even more exciting than when China had won the World Cup or when the LPL had won the S-Series. It seems that you have really won. Seeing the endless cheers around him, Li Bai dragged Liu Ling's body and said with some doubt, "Since this sword of yours is so powerful and can kill Xian Ming in seconds, why didn't you use it earlier? Why did you drag it until now? This is not something that can be used just because I want to." Hearing Li Bai's question, Liu Ling's face was full of a bitter smile. First of all, this move needs a long time to prepare, and 1 year of life of 400 million people is also not a small problem. More importantly, do you think that I, as the user, don't have to pay any price with my life? Do you also want to reduce your life by 1 year? Li Bai asked curiously. No, this is even worse than losing a year of life. Liu Ling let out a long sigh, an extremely worried expression on her face as she said, "If only I had a child earlier. What a pity, the Liu family's legacy is going to be destroyed in my hand. I am the sinner of the Liu family." Miss Ling, what do you mean by this? Are you saying that the great life you speak of is your ability to procreate? Li Bai asked in shock. That's right, this is the biggest side effect of using the human Dao sword maiden. Liu Ling's body began to tremble slightly again. The human Dao sword maiden's power is actually the power to destroy humans, and this power will also destroy the user's body. Once the power of the human Dao sword maiden is used, not only will the user have to pay the price of their lifespan, but they will also have to pay the price of their own life force. Once we use it, we will no longer be able to have children, because the life force in our bodies will no longer be complete. Oh my God. Miss Ling, you still don't have children. What about the Liu family that has been passed down for 1,000 years? Is the legacy going to end just like this? Li Bai said in horror. It was very hard to imagine what would happen to humans if they lost the legacy of the Liu family. Chapter 1436. For the next 3 days, Liu Ling was in a state of recuperation. Because Liu Ling was missing, the battle in Yuzhang City was focused on defense. All of the sword-bearers poured their sword essence into the dimensional barrier in order to replenish the energy they had used up from Zhu Wu's attacks. Perhaps it was because of Xian Ming's death, but the remaining 11 Zhu Wus entered a berserk state. They began to attack the dimensional barrier in a frenzy. Every attack consumed more energy than when there were 12 Zhu Wus. The sword essence of the human sword-bearers was quickly being depleted. The joy of killing Xian Ming 3 days ago was quickly fading away. Worry for the future had once again taken over everyone's hearts. Your Majesty, according to the calculation, the sword elements of the sword-bearers have been consumed by about 30%. Judging from the current situation, we can only hold on for another half a month at most before we face the crisis of insufficient sword elements again. Back on the walls of Yuzhang City, Ying Zheng looked at the 11 Zhu Wus outside the dimensional barrier and listened to Lu Yin's report. 15 days is still a bit too much of a rush. Ying Zheng let out a long sigh. How about this? Arrange for some people to form a committee to use the sovereign's blood. Gather all of the sovereign's blood in our possession and use it together. As long as we distribute it well, a single drop of sovereign's blood will be enough for a famed sword-bearer to recover all of their sword essence. If that's the case, we might be able to last for another 10 days or so, but Your Majesty, the Sword Committee has less than 2,000 cubic centimeters of sovereign's blood left. I'm afraid we won't be able to last for another 3 days, Lu Yin said with difficulty. Don't worry, the Sword Committee doesn't have any left, but does the Liu Nian family still have any? The Liu Nian family has at least 10,000 cubic centimeters of king's blood. Go find Frost Jendi and tell her to give up all of her king's blood for the sake of humanity, Ying Zheng said. I don't think that's appropriate. Lu Yin revealed a troubled expression. Frost Jendi has already sacrificed a lot for the human race. The Liu Nian family has also used up a lot of their resources. I'm afraid that Frost Jendi won't agree to the Liu Nian family giving up their emperor's blood. No. She will agree. Ying Zheng laughed. She can only blame herself for refusing to marry me, refusing to bear a child for me, and foolishly staying faithful to Gu Han. Now, she would never be able to give birth to a child, and the Liu Nian family's line would end. What was the point of a family that was destined to end its line? Why don't we just take it out and let the humans use it? That way, she can at least have a good reputation. Lu Yin fell silent. At this moment, he didn't know what to say. Don't worry, I know her personality. Even if she gives birth to a child, she will hand over all of her emperor's blood for the sake of the greater good. Don't worry, just go ask her for it. Ying Zheng thought that Lu Yin's silence was because he was worried that Liunian Ling would refuse, so he spoke with certainty. Yes, I understand. Lu Yin nodded and prepared to leave. Wait. Ying Zheng spoke again. By the way, take a look at how her body is recovering. Logically speaking, she should be able to recover in 3 days after using that move. If she can fight, tell her to get ready. We will move out today and kill another Zhu Wu. Yes. Lu Yin couldn't wait to leave. He didn't want to stay a moment longer. How is it? Did you get the item? Around half an hour later, Lu Yin returned to Ying Zheng's side. Yes, after hearing Your Majesty's request, Frost Jendi didn't hesitate and gave me 12,000 cubic centimeters of Emperor's blood. At the same time, I have already arranged for people to use it on those sword-bearers who have already used up their sword essence, so that they can quickly recover their sword essence. Lu Yin replied. You didn't take away this Emperor's blood, did you? Ying Zheng turned around and looked deeply at Lu Yin. I remember that Emperor's blood can also increase your strength. Would you take a few thousand cc of Emperor's blood and use it to increase your own strength? I wouldn't dare. I definitely wouldn't dare. Lu Yin said in a panic, I am already satisfied with Your Majesty's Zhu Wu's blood. I definitely wouldn't want any more Emperor's blood, and I definitely wouldn't embezzle something that can be used to save the human race. Good. I believe that you wouldn't dare to embezzle. Ying Zheng laughed, and then his face suddenly became even more serious. You wouldn't dare, but I dare. You've followed me for so long, how can you still be so insensible? You actually took out 12,000 cubic centimeters. If this isn't a waste, then what is? Yes. I understand. I will go right now and bring back 6,000 cubic centimeters of Emperor's blood for your majesty. Liu Yin said. That's too little. 2,000 cubic centimeters is enough. Bring back 10,000 cubic centimeters of Emperor's blood, I have a great use for it. Ying Zheng said without any sense of shame. Yes. I will go right now. Liu Yin said and prepared to leave. Come back, I still haven't finished reporting. How is Frost Gendi's body? Ying Zheng asked. Frost Gendi, she. Liu Yin hadn't even finished speaking when a nether gate broke open. Liuyan Ling and Li Bai walked out of the nether gate and coldly said, My body is fine, let's continue fighting. Good. Thank you, Your Majesty Frost Gendi. Ying Zheng's forehead beaded with sweat. He didn't know if Liuyan Ling had heard what he and Liu Yin had said. These Zhu Wus are really stupid. We've already killed one of them and they still dare to surround us. Do they not want to live anymore? Seeing that the remaining 11 ancestral wizards were still attacking Yuzhang City in a circular encirclement, the sword-bearers were a little disdainful and puzzled. That's normal. Ying Zheng explained for everyone, as Zhu Wus, they are actually all simple-minded creatures. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been provoked to the point of fighting the monster race with a few simple tactics. They like to climb back up from where they fell. So, unless we kill half of their Zhu Wus, they definitely won't change their tactics. That's good. Then we can at least kill 6 more Zhu Wus. An immortal sword-tier sword-bearer said excitedly. Of course. Everyone, attack. With Ying Zheng's command, all the sword-bearers once again charged out and repeated the process of killing Xian Ming. But this time, their target was the Zhu Wu's Shebi corpse. As the corpse Zhu Wu's, the Shebi corpse was similar to Xian Ming. They were both relatively easy opponents to kill among the 12 Zhu Wus. The course of the battle didn't need to be discussed. In any case, it was another successful battle. In front of Liuyan Ling's 100 million swords technique, the Shebi corpse had no way of resisting. After another hole appeared in the ground, the Zhu Wu's Shebi corpse was also killed. Thus, only 10 of the 12 Zhu Wus were left. The humans had once again achieved a shocking victory. Next was Zhu Wu's Changliang, then Zhu Wu's Gomang, then Zhu Wu's Candle Join. 5 Zhu Wus had been killed by the humans in such a way. The humans had achieved an unprecedented victory. Seeing that there were only 7 Zhu Wus left outside the city, even the most pessimistic humans felt that the situation had been reversed. The humans' victory was already set in stone. The humans were about to end their years of humiliation. They would defeat the seemingly terrifying 12 Zhu Wus and become one of the rulers of Earth again. Even the humans who were squeezed in the city forgot about the lack of food and the pain of life. They began to fantasize about returning to their hometowns and rebuilding beautiful base cities. Then, nursery rhymes praising Ying Zheng began to spread among the humans. It was obvious that someone had deliberately spread these nursery rhymes, but no one expressed any resistance. Instead, they began to sing their praises with satisfaction. This was because in the hearts of the humans, it was indeed Ying Zheng who had led the humans through this difficult time and ushered in this unimaginable victory. At the same time, very few people noticed that in this nursery rhyme, Ying Zheng's name appeared 21 times. However, the other hero of the battle, or rather, the real hero, Liuyan Ling's name only appeared 3 times. What was even more meaningful was that the 3 appearances of the name were accompanied by the words sacrifice of life. It was as if it was constantly reminding the humans that it was Liuyan Ling who had taken away the sacrifice of human life. Therefore, the real hero was not Liuyan Ling, but the humans who had sacrificed their lives. In that case, this nursery rhyme was a malicious one. Those knowledgeable people could already see the tragic end of Liuyan Ling after the battle was over. In fact, even though the battle was not over, Liuyan Ling had already become extremely miserable. Although she could fight again after resting for 3 days, that was only under the condition that she was at her limit. Using the 100 million swords art twice in a row under the condition of her limit was already a serious burden for a human, not to mention that she had to borrow the lifespan of a human, causing her own life force to be damaged. However, Liuyan Ling had used it 5 times, and the interval between each use was only 3 days. Therefore, after killing the 5th Zhu Wu, Liuyan Ling's condition had become extremely bad. Her long black hair had become snow-white, and her elastic skin had become extremely loose. Numerous wrinkles had covered Liuyan Ling's body. This young and lovely girl was now covered with an aura like that of a dead tree. If someone who didn't know Liuyan Ling saw Liuyan Ling for the first time, they would think that Liuyan Ling wasn't a 30-year-old youth, but rather an 80-year-old woman with one foot in the grave. Frost Jendi, His Majesty has asked me to invite you to participate in the 6th battle. Lu Yin once again appeared beside Liuyan Ling and spoke to Liuyan Ling. Okay, I'll go. Liuyan Ling struggled to stand up and participate in the battle. No. Definitely not. I definitely won't let you go. Li Bai forcefully pushed Liuyan Ling to his side and firmly refused. You definitely can't fight anymore. You must rest, or else you'll die. If you use the power of the 100 million swords art again, you'll definitely die. No, there are still 7 Zuwu left. Humanity is still in danger. I must go. Liuyan Ling insisted. How can you be like this? If you're like this, how am I supposed to explain this to Guhan? Li Bai looked at Liuyan Ling, who was like a piece of paper, and his heart ached. Explain this to him? What's there to explain? Could it be that he's already back? Liuyan Ling looked at Li Bai and asked suspiciously. No, of course he hasn't come back. I'm saying that he'll come back sooner or later. If he sees you like this, he definitely won't let me go. Li Bai actually shed a tear. This was the first time Liuyan Ling had ever seen Li Bai cry. Hehe, then we'll talk about it when he comes back. Liuyan Ling still refused to give up. She pushed Li Bai away and directly entered the void. 10 minutes later, following a streak of sword light, the 6th Zuwu also died. However, after returning, Liuyan Ling spat out 3 liters of blood. She fell into a coma and didn't wake up for several days. Chapter 1437. It's already been 5 days. Has Frost Jendi still not woken up? Ying Zheng asked Li Bai and Yuan Ku, who were in charge of taking care of Liuyan Ling. What? Do you want Miss Linlin to risk her life for you? Misaka Mikoto was extremely displeased when she heard Ying Zheng's question. The scene of Liuyan Ling fighting for her life for the past few days had deeply affected everyone. So when they heard Ying Zheng's question, all of the Yuan Kus were enraged. No, of course not. Ying Zheng could not urge the unconscious Liuyan Ling to continue fighting. Instead, he said with a sorrowful expression, I'm just asking about Miss Ling. Miss Linlin has indeed sacrificed too much for humanity, and she is deeply engraved in the hearts of us humans and sword-bearers. She is a role model for all of us humans, and we should maintain our respect for her in our hearts. At the same time, we should pray to the heavens that Miss Ling will survive and recover. Even if Miss Ling wakes up, she won't be able to recover. She's lost too much of her life force. Miss Ling doesn't even have many years left. Misaka Mikoto, who had been taking care of Liuyan Ling, said with a sorrowful expression. I say, you should be satisfied now. Isis, who had been watching from the side, suddenly said, now that 5 of the 12 Zuwus are dead, Miss Ling has lost her life force. She doesn't have many years left to live. What's even more amazing is that Miss Ling still doesn't have a child. The Liuyan family will soon have no heir, and the Liuyan family will come to an end. The Dragon Lion Sword Emperor is also getting old, but you, Ying Zheng, are an immortal being just like us. Doesn't that mean that you, Ying Zheng, have already swept away all the obstacles and can truly control all the rights of the human race, becoming an existence that stands above all others? This is really a good plan. All the people who can stop you are gone. You have succeeded. Isis was indeed the think tank of the Egyptian pantheon. After her analysis, everyone's expression changed instantly. He had to admit that Isis was right. No matter what the final outcome of this war was, Ying Zheng would lose the existence that could only keep him in check. Ying Zheng would dominate the entire human race and become the true emperor of the human race, the only emperor. Why are you talking about this now? Ying Zheng waved his hand and said, there are still 7 of the 12 Zuwu out there. Shouldn't we be thinking about how to deal with the remaining Zuwu? Isn't discussing these things putting the cart before the horse? That's right. It's not the time to talk about this. The most important thing now is to kill all the Zhu-Wu. Longsha Jendi also tried to smooth things over. Compared to 20 days ago, the current Longsha Jendi looked even older. In these 20 days of battle, although Longsha Jendi did not use his full strength, he also consumed a lot of his strength. His body was getting worse day by day, and he could ascend at any time. So at this time, Longsha Jendi was particularly anxious. He only hoped that he could kill or drive away all the Zhu-Wu before he ascended, so that he could die without regrets. Your Majesty, Longsha is right. Now is really not the time to argue about this. Ying Zheng quickly took over the Dragon Lion Sword Emperor's words and said, although 5 of our ancestral sorcerers are dead, our core, the Frost Sword Emperor, has also fallen. Therefore, we are almost back to the same starting line. We have to plan in detail how to kill the remaining 7 ancestral sorcerers. Oh, so you already have an idea? Li Bai looked at Ying Zheng and said, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if it's right or not. Let me tell you. Ying Zheng smiled, and then said with confidence, the remaining 7 Zhu-Wu are Zhu Rong who controls fire, Gong Gong who controls water, Di Jiang who controls speed, Hu Tu who controls earth, Yu Shou who controls metal, and Kuzi who controls thunder and lightning. These 12 Zhu-Wus usually seem to work together as one, but in reality, there are still some dirty secrets between the different Zhu-Wus. For example, Di Jiang and Hu Tu. Di Jiang once wanted to force Hu Tu to marry, but was rejected by Hu Tu, and the two became enemies. The most obvious enemies are Gong Gong and Zhu Rong. These two are in charge of water and fire respectively. Normally, water and fire are incompatible. Later on, the hatred between the two grew bigger and bigger. In the end, the two of them had a huge battle and broke Mount Buzhou, causing water to fall from the sky. This also led to the story of Nuwa mending the heavens. At the same time, because of this, Lady Nuwa was able to become a saint, an existence that transcended the prehistoric level and became a saint. Ying Zheng told the story as if he was talking about family trivia. How do you know about these things? Why haven't we heard about it? Misaka Mikoto asked with a frown. This is the secret of our Wu people, and also the biggest scandal of the Wu people. Of course, only the Wu people know about this, and I happen to be a member of the Wu people. Of course this kind of thing can't be hidden from me. What's so strange about it? Ying Zheng said calmly and then looked at Li Bai. Mr. Li Bai might not know about the Wu people, but you should know about the story of Nuwa mending the heavens, right? That's right, Nuwa mending the heavens is indeed a story that has been passed down since ancient times. Li Bai nodded, tacitly agreeing to Ying Zheng's words. Ying Zheng continued. That's why my next plan is to focus on Zhurong and Gong Gong. If we can find a way to stir up the hatred between Gong Gong and Zhurong and make them fight each other, we'll be able to reap the benefits. We might even be able to kill both ancestral sorcerers at the same time. As soon as Ying Zheng finished speaking, Aisai's voice was heard. You're taking it for granted. Gong Gong and Zhurong are not fools. Why would they fight each other at such an important moment? Moreover, there are other Zhu-Wus around. They will definitely intervene and stop the fight between the two of them. By then, all our previous efforts will be wasted. Aisai's words made a lot of sense. The others all nodded. They felt that this plan was a bit too risky. You guys don't understand. The reason why Gong Gong and Zhurong became enemies was because they both liked another Zhu-Wu's Xian Ming. They fought and killed each other for most of their lives, all for the sake of becoming Xian Ming's husband. Therefore, if we use Xian Ming as a catalyst to stir up a fight between the two Zhu-Wus, then they will definitely fight to the death, Ying Zheng said. That's even funnier. Xian Ming was the first to die by Frost Jendi's hands. Even her bones are gone. How can we use her to stir up the hatred between Gong Gong and Zhurong? I'm afraid that the two of them will want to kill us to avenge Xian Ming. Aisai laughed coldly. Even though Xian Ming's bones are gone, Xian Ming's Zhu-Wu's blood beads are still there. Ying Zheng's gaze turned to Zhu-Wu's Di Jiang. At this moment, Zhu-Wu's Gong Gong's waist had 5 bright red blood beads. These were the blood beads left behind by the 5 Zhu-Wus that had died before. Right now, all of the Zhu-Wu's blood beads are in Gong Gong's custody. That's great. If we can steal Xian Ming's Zhu Wu's blood beads from Gong Gong's body and then destroy it in front of Zhu Rong, then with Zhu Rong's brainless personality, he will definitely direct his anger onto Gong Gong. When the two of them fight each other until both of them are injured, we can take the opportunity to kill both Zhu Wus. As Ying Zheng spoke, he began to laugh coldly. This really did sound like a very evil plan. Your plan is a bit too naive. Isn't it just a Zhu Wu's blood bead? Do Zhu Rong and Gong Gong need to be so brainless to fight for it? In any case, I definitely don't believe that they would fight over it, Ice Eyes said with distrust. No, I think we can give it a try. After listening to Ying Zheng's plan, Long Shijendi suddenly said, you haven't experienced the taste of love, and you don't know how crazy two people can be for love. I think that if Zhu Rong and Gong Gong really have such a big hatred, then it is very likely that they will fight. Moreover, this is just stealing a blood bead. If it succeeds, it will naturally be a good thing. If it doesn't succeed, there won't be any harm. It's better than doing nothing now and just looking at the 7 Zhu Wus. Long Shijendi's words instantly won the approval of most of the people. Yes, anyway, it's just stealing something, let's give it a try. Therefore, Ying Zheng's plan once again gained everyone's approval, and then they began to design and implement it non-stop. And in this process, the role of the space controller, Shiroi Kuroko, became extremely important. Shiroi Kuroko's ability was teleportation, which was different from the teleportation ability of the immortal sword-grade sword-bearers through the void. Shiroi Kuroko's teleportation ability was a complete spatial transfer, and the advantage of this ability was that the opponent could not guard against Shiroi Kuroko's sneak attack at all, and it was impossible to predict the position that Shiroi Kuroko might appear next. Unlike the Void Gate, as long as one could feel the fluctuation of the void, one could know the position of the opponent in advance according to the fluctuation of the void. Moreover, it took time to move through the Void Gate, but with Shiroi Kuroko's teleportation ability, it did not take any time. From the previous position to the next position, there was not even a delay of 0.00001 seconds. It was a true teleportation, and it was precisely because of this ability that Shiroi Kuroko became the key to this stealing operation. According to the plan drawn up by Ying Zheng, everyone would first besiege the other Zhu Wu's Hutu, who was next to Gong Gong, and then Gong Gong, who was next to Hutu, would immediately go to the rescue. Because the main force of Ying Zheng's side had appeared next to Hutu, Gong Gong would never think that the real target was actually himself, and he would definitely let his guard down. And at this time, Shiroi Kuroko only needed to teleport to Gong Gong's waist with a strong expert, and quickly extract the Zhu Wu blood bead from his waist, and then the job would be done. This seemed to be a very simple plan, but the more complicated a plan was, the easier it was to have problems. On the contrary, a simple plan was easier to implement. Moreover, this plan did not seem to be dangerous, so everyone quickly agreed to this plan, and began to carry it out at the same time. Chapter 1438. Things were progressing unexpectedly smoothly. When almost all the main forces of the human beings gathered around Zhu Wu and Hutu, Hutu immediately let out a cry for help, as she felt the way Zhu Wu died. The two Zhu Wu around her also followed Ying Zheng's plan and started to support Hutu. Among them, Gong Gong was running in the front. He had already lost 5 of his companions, and he did not want to lose any more. Therefore, he ran extremely fast, using all his strength to run, and did not pay any attention to the situation around his waist. As a result, when Shiroi Kuroko grabbed Ying Zheng and appeared around Gong Gong's waist, Gong Gong was completely unprepared. As Ying Zheng was also a being at the same level as Zhu Wu, his hand became as huge as Gong Gong's palm the moment he teleported, and grabbed the 5 blood beads hanging around Gong Gong's waist. Then, with a strong pull, all the blood beads were successfully grabbed by Ying Zheng. The whole process was unexpectedly smooth. Zhu Wu thought that when the human beings were about to carry out their previous strategy, their most important things had already been taken away by the human beings. Zhu Rong, who came late, saw Hutu safe and sound, and Gong Gong, who had nothing around his waist. He instantly let out an angry roar, raised his fist, and was about to smash Gong Gong's head. If Zhu Wu had not stopped him in time, the two of them would have already started fighting. It seems that your plan has failed. I told you, even if these two Zhu Wu really want to fight, the other Zhu Wu will stop them. Seeing that the fight between Gong Gong and Zhu Rong was stopped by her companions, Ice Eyes immediately taunted. Don't worry, the Zhu Wu blood beads of Xian Ming haven't been destroyed yet, have they? Ying Zheng looked at the huge blood beads of ancestral sorcery that stood on the entire city wall. Then, he leaped down from the city wall. His body began to grow rapidly until he was the same size as the ancestral sorcery. Holding the 5 blood beads of ancestral sorcery in his hand, he walked out of the dimensional barrier and came face to face with the remaining 7 ancestral sorcery. Yuan %% DDF and Ying Zheng began to speak, but the language that came out of his mouth was very strange. It sounded like a yellowish hemp rope, very grating to the ears. Obviously, it was a special language, and not the Chinese that was commonly used by human beings. What is this guy saying? Hearing Ying Zheng's gibberish, Ice Eyes felt inexplicably angry. This is the language of witchcraft, the unique language of the Wu people. The Black Palace Sword Immortal explained, I've stayed in Shanhai Pass for 8 years, so I know quite a bit about the sorcerer tribe. I've also heard some of their special languages, so I can roughly tell that it's the sorcerer language. Oh, then hurry up and translate for us what Ying Zheng is talking about, Ice Eyes urged. I'm sorry. The language of the Wu people is only used among their own kind, and when they talk to human beings, they use Chinese. Moreover, the grammar of the language seems to be different from all other languages. Our Shanhai Pass has been deciphering it for hundreds of years, but we only know the meaning of a few sentences of it. For such a long paragraph of witchcraft, no human being can understand what they are saying. As soon as Sword Immortal Black Palace's voice faded away, the conversation between Ying Zheng and Zhu Wu became extremely intense. The Zhu Wus raised their fists and tried to kill Ying Zheng a few times, but it seemed that Ying Zheng's language had neutralized their attacks. However, it was obvious that both sides were engaged in a heated argument. After that, Ying Zheng suddenly pointed at Gong Gong and Zhu Rong and laughed a few times. Then, he raised the blood beads of Zhu Wu in his hand and raised them above his head. Under the watchful eyes of all the Zhu Wus and human beings, he swallowed all 5 Zhu Wus blood beads. After that, he burped with satisfaction, mocking the 7 Zhu Wus in front of him. After that, Ying Zheng began to run for his life. After taking a few attacks from the 7 Zhu Wus, he fled back into the dimensional barrier. His body shrank again, and finally, he transformed back into Ying Zheng's appearance. Then, he appeared on top of the city wall with satisfaction. As soon as Ying Zheng appeared, Ice Eyes asked eagerly, "What did you say to them?" "Nothing much, just some provocative words," Ying Zheng said coolly. Then, after witnessing the destruction of all 5 blood pearls, the ancestral sorcerers became even crazier. They circled around Yuzhang City and launched a round of crazy attacks. The damage they caused was even greater than before. However, even when there were 12 Zhu Wus, they could not even shake the dimensional barrier of Yuzhang City, let alone now that there were only 7 Zhu Wus left. Therefore, after attacking with all their might for a few hours, even the Zhu Wus felt that they could no longer attack, so they had no choice but to retreat. Obviously, it was difficult for Zhu Wu's anger to be vented in a short period of time. Therefore, the people around him that he could attack became the best targets for him to vent his anger on. Zhu Rong, who was panting a few times, did not wait for Gong Gong, who was spitting out water, to react. Instead, he smashed his fist directly on Gong Gong's forehead. How could Gong Gong allow Zhu Rong to beat him like this? Naturally, he had to fight back, so the two of them started fighting in front of the humans. Although the Zhu Wus wanted to stop them, the two of them were completely enraged. Even Zhu Wu, who went to stop them, was injured. After a few times, Zhu Wus stopped trying to stop them. "It seems that my plan has worked perfectly," Ying Zheng said with a smile as he looked at the 2 ancestral sorcerers who were beaten black and blue. Even Ice Eyes, who had repeatedly opposed the plan, had to admit that Ying Zheng had indeed come up with an excellent plan. He had actually forced the 2 ancestral sorcerers to fight to such an extent. This was simply a gift to the humans. However, Ice Eyes still felt that something was wrong. Were the 12 Zhu Wus really guys with only muscles for brains? "My compatriots, It's finally time for us to make our move. Seeing that the fight between Gonggong and Zhu Rong had come to an end, and both Zhu Wus were seriously injured, and more importantly, their anger had been used up. When they gradually regained their senses, Ying Zheng's eyes instantly became as sharp as the eyes of an eagle. At the same time, he said to the people behind him, "Clatter." At this moment, all the human forces once again poured out, charging towards Zhu Rong and Gonggong, who had become extremely exhausted. "Brothers, let's attack Gonggong first. After we kill Gonggong, we will kill Zhu Rong. These two Zhu Wus only have half a breath left. We must finish them in one go. Therefore, when more Zhu Wus come, we have to do our best. Even if we have to break our swords, we have to kill these two Zhu Wus." At the moment of the attack, Ying Zheng's words rang in everyone's ears. These words were not only cheering and encouraging, but also the most important ultimatum to each of them, telling each swordsman that this was a battle that they had to persevere to the end, even if they had to sacrifice their lives, and win in the end. Understood. Fight till the end. The crowd roared out together, then sent out their most powerful swords to attack Zhu Rong and Gonggong together with Ying Zheng and Yuan Ku. This was an unprecedentedly decisive battle. Even though Zhu Rong and Gonggong's fighting were only half a breath left, this half breath was more than enough to take the lives of the attackers. Especially in the face of death, Zhu Rong and Gonggong, these two enemies, put down their hatred in an instant, and worked together to deal with the attacks of the humans. "Everyone, don't defend anymore. Use whatever damaging skills you have. Kill these two Zhu Wus first." As soon as Ying Zheng's voice landed, all the immortal sword rank sword ladies began to use their ultimate skills. Although they were a realm lower than Zhu Wus in terms of level, the ultimate skills of immortal sword rank sword ladies were not something that Zhu Wu could withstand without paying any price. Therefore, the wounds on Zhu Rong and Gonggong's bodies grew more and more numerous, and their life force became weaker and weaker. However, the aura of the two became even more frenzied. The consequence of immortal sword rank sword ladies giving up on defense was that they could not withstand the few attacks of the Grand Wizard. One immortal sword rank sword lady was hit by Zhu Rong's true fire, and the protective shield on the surface of her body could no longer withstand it. It shattered immediately, and the aftermath of this ball of fire hit the body of this immortal sword rank sword lady. Half of her body was instantly charred. Not good. There's less than 50% of her durability left. Hurry back. The sword lady on the city wall suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and then cried out in pain. She was about to order her sword lady, who had less than 50% durability left, to come back. "Don't go back." Ying Zheng's sudden shout rang out in her ear, and all she could hear was Ying Zheng's heart-wrenching scream. "We must attack. Attack with absolute certainty. Before the rest of the Zhu Wus break our sword ladies, we must kill Zhu Rong and Gonggong." The sword lady hesitated. She clearly knew that if she allowed the sword lady, who had less than 50% durability left, to continue fighting, she might break on the battlefield. Think about Frost Jendi. She even sacrificed her own life. Why are you still so stingy with a sword lady? Ying Zheng's words rang in her mind once again. Thinking about how Liuanian Ling had risked her life to fight for humanity, and how she had become so old, the sword lady gritted her teeth and ordered her sword lady to go forward. Then, unfortunately, she was hit by Zhu Rong's attack again, and the sword lady was broken under the sword lady's despairing gaze. This was the first immortal sword-level sword lady that was broken in this battle, but it was definitely not the last one. As the other ancestral sorcerers arrived, more and more immortal sword-level sword ladies were broken. But thanks to the sword lady's generosity in killing, Zhu Rong and Gonggong's situation became more and more dire. In the end, they were on their last breaths. "Master Li Bai, Your Majesty Long Jendi, let's join hands and kill them." Ying Zheng, who was covered in blood, said to Li Bai and Long Jendi's sword lady. Long Jendi's sword lady and Li Bai nodded, and simultaneously used their strongest killing moves. The combined attack of three desolate level masters was terrifying. Zhu Rong and Gonggong could no longer resist, and were directly turned into a pile of flesh and blood. "Alright, these two Zhu Wus are dead. We should retreat." Seeing that Zhu Rong and Gonggong were finally dead, the sword lady who usually fought let out a long sigh of relief, and prepared to retreat back to Yuzhong City. "Don't go. Buy me another 30 seconds. But to everyone's surprise, Ying Zheng actually said such a fate in an instant. Because everyone was used to obeying Ying Zheng's orders, and at the same time, they felt that Ying Zheng might still have something important to attend to, or that Zhu Rong and Gong Gong were not completely dead yet, they did not doubt him and continued to fight with their lives on the line, fighting for 30 seconds for Ying Zheng. 30 seconds might not seem like a long time, but many things could happen in this period of time. For example, in these 30 seconds, another sword maiden of immortal sword tier was unfortunately broken, and in these 30 seconds, Ying Zheng had successfully dug out the 2 blood pearls from Zhu Rong and Gong Gong's bodies. Retreat. Looking at the 2 extra blood beads in his hand, Ying Zheng finally gave the order to retreat with satisfaction. Chapter 1439. Ying Zheng, you have to give me an explanation today, or I will not let you go. As soon as Ying Zheng returned to the city wall, a man rushed up to him and said angrily, "So it's the Terpsichore sword immortal. I'm very sorry, your immortal grade sword maiden has been broken, but I don't understand, what does this have to do with me?" Ying Zheng said to the angry swordsman with an innocent face. "What do you mean it has nothing to do with you? If you didn't insist that we hold on for another 30 seconds, how could my immortal grade sword maiden have been broken? She could have easily retreated." The Terpsichore sword immortal said angrily and sorrowfully. He was the swordsman whose immortal grade sword maiden had his immortal grade sword maiden broken in the last 30 seconds. "I wanted to hold on for 30 seconds, of course, because I wanted to kill Zhu Wu once and for all. I'm doing this for the sake of humanity. Is there anything wrong with that?" Ying Zheng said in an unfriendly tone. "You're talking nonsense. Zhu Rong and Gong Gong, the 2 Zhu Wus are clearly dead, and their corpses have already turned into minced meat. Why did we have to hold on for another 30 seconds? And in these 30 seconds, you used all of them to dig out the 2 Zhu Wus blood beads. I think you wanted these 30 seconds to get those 2 Zhu Wus blood beads. You're using the lives of our swordsman and sword maiden to exchange for what you want. You're a selfish bastard. Don't think I can't guess it. You're a Zhu Wu, and these Zhu Wu's blood beads must have some great effect on you, such as improving your strength or something. So, you're willing to sacrifice our immortal grade sword maidens to get those 2 Zhu Wu's blood beads. We're your pawns, and you're using us alive. That's right, when you were talking to Zhu Rong and Gong Gong just now, you ate the 5 Zhu Wu's blood beads, didn't you? This is the evidence. Otherwise, you could have used your strength to forcefully destroy these 5 Zhu Wu blood beads. Why did you eat them? Aren't you afraid of spoiling your stomach? None of those who could reach the level of an immortal sword tier sword wielder were fools. It was just that most people were unwilling to say those words. Only the graceful sword immortal, who had broken her own immortal sword maiden, was fearless and dared to say those words. This graceful sword immortal had already realized that he and the other immortal sword tier sword wielders were merely pawns used by Ying Zheng. His immortal sword tier sword mistress did not need to be sacrificed, but it was all Ying Zheng's fault. Of course, Ying Zheng would never admit this. Instead, he said angrily and innocently, "Do you really think that Zhu Wu is dead? Don't tell me I went to get this Zhu Wu blood bead for myself. I am also Zhu Wu. Among humans, there is no one who knows Zhu Wu better than I do. To Zhu Wu, these Zhu Wu blood beads are like the divinity of gods. You know those gods too. As long as their divinity does not die, they can be resurrected one day. Oh yes, I remember that there are 3 gods here. You can ask them if there is a day of resurrection as long as the divinity exists." Ying Zheng retorted loudly. In fact, there was no need to ask the 3 gods of Egypt about this question. It was written very clearly in the human textbooks. If one wanted to completely kill the godlike Yuan Ku, he had to destroy the divinity of this god. Otherwise, the god could rely on the divinity to be reborn. This was basic knowledge that everyone knew. The Zhu Wu blood beads are the same. As long as the Zhu Wu blood beads still exist, Zhu Wu can be resurrected one day. At that time, he will still be our enemy. Therefore, in order to solve this problem once and for all, I must get these Zhu Wu blood beads in my hands. This way, Zuwu can no longer be resurrected, and we humans will no longer have to face a terrifying enemy like Zuwu in the future. Is it wrong for me to ask you to hold on for 30 seconds? Ying Zheng said loudly. The Terpsichore sword immortal, who was scolding Ying Zheng a moment ago, suddenly became speechless. If Ying Zheng was really trying to prevent Zuwu from being resurrected in the future, then he should not be blamed for holding on for 30 seconds. Very well, His Majesty Ying Zheng is right. We really shouldn't blame His Majesty for this. Terpsichore sword immortal, we can understand your feelings. There are still 3 sword bearers of the immortal sword rank who had their sword maidens broken like you. Didn't they make a fuss? I hope that you can consider the overall situation of mankind and put down today's matter for the time being. I promise you here that in the future, mankind will do its best to resurrect the 4 broken sword maidens of the immortal sword rank. When the aging Longsha Jendi saw this scene, he took the initiative to step forward and smooth things over. Hearing the words of the old Longsha Jendi, even though Terpsichore sword immortal was still unwilling and angry, he still obediently retreated. Now, he was no longer an immortal sword rank sword bearer. Thank you, Longsha Jendi, for being fair and straightforward. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have to bear the infamy of being selfish. Ying Zheng also breathed a sigh of relief and thanked Longsha Jendi at the same time. You don't need to thank me, I'm just saying a few fair words for mankind. Longsha Jendi sighed, then turned his eyes to Ying Zheng, looked at him deeply, and said, but for the sake of fairness, and also to dispel the doubts in everyone's hearts, please hand over the 2 Zuwu blood beads just now to me, so that I can destroy these 2 Zuwu blood beads in front of everyone. In this way, you will also be cleared of suspicion, and all mankind can unite together and continue to fight. As soon as Longsha Jendi finished speaking, the eyes of all the people present instantly focused on Ying Zheng. Yes, what Longsha Jendi had said was indeed the voice of all the people, and also a huge knot in everyone's heart. If Ying Zheng could hand over the 2 Zuwu blood beads to Longsha Jendi in front of everyone to destroy, then naturally he could be cleared of suspicion, and everyone would be willing to believe that Ying Zheng did not seize the Zuwu blood beads for his own selfish reasons. If Ying Zheng refused to hand them over, then there must be a big problem with Ying Zheng. All right. I'm also very willing to clear my suspicion. Without any hesitation, Ying Zheng very happily handed over the 2 Zuwu blood beads in his hand. After leaving Ying Zheng's palm, the 2 Zuwu blood beads instantly grew in size, and finally occupied the entire width of the city wall for dozens of meters. Very well, then I'll destroy these 2 ancestral sorcerer's blood pearls in front of all of you. After I destroy these 2 ancestral sorcerer's blood pearls, all of you will no longer have any doubts about His Majesty Ying Zheng. In the future, we will work together and fight for the future of mankind. Longsha Jendi coughed and said. Everyone nodded in unison. Longsha Jendi finally revealed a satisfied smile, and then Longsha Jendi's Emperor Swordgrade Sword Lady Gaia, stepped out from the crowd, and the Sword Lady Gaia in her hand condensed a yellow light. Everyone was startled, realizing that Sword Lady Gaia had used the power of the Law of Earth, and the next attack would certainly consume all her strength. Ah! After a loud shout, Sword Lady Gaia slashed at the Zuwu blood bead, and then there was a dazzling light. However, this light disappeared very quickly. When the light disappeared, everyone present was surprised to find that the Zuwu blood bead was actually lying there motionlessly. It had forcibly withstood the attack of Sword Lady Gaia, but unexpectedly, there was not even a scratch on it, and it was still lying there intact. Again, Longsha Jendi opened his eyes, and Sword Lady Gaia slashed at the Zuwu blood bead with all her strength a few times, but the result was that the Zuwu blood bead still did not have any reaction, and was still intact. I'm old. This old man is really old. Longsha Jendi took a few steps back powerlessly. He, who could even kill the godheads of the gods in those days, was extremely sad to find that he could not even cause a little bit of damage to the Zuwu blood bead. Zuwu blood bead is the essence of Zuwu, and it is harder than Zuwu's body. Of course, you can't cut this Zuwu blood bead. Only by relying on my Zuwu's power to slowly melt these 2 Zuwu blood beads can it be completely destroyed. Ying Zheng sighed, and then turned to everyone. As you can see, it's not that I don't want to destroy these 2 Zuwu blood beads, but with our current strength, we can't directly destroy these 2 Zhu blood beads. I'd better eat them, and use my Zhu Wu's power to slowly melt them down. Ying Zheng's words made everyone feel really helpless, and they also realized that Ying Zheng was willing to hand over these 2 Zhu blood beads to Long Shizhendi to destroy, which clearly meant that he already knew in advance that these 2 Zhu blood beads could not be destroyed. And now, he directly and aboveboard proposed to swallow these 2 Zhu blood beads. As Ying Zheng had said just now, these 2 blood pearls were the essence of the ancestral sorcerer. If all the essence of the ancestral sorcerer was absorbed by Ying Zheng, wouldn't that make him even more frightening than the 12 ancestral sorcerers? If possible, none of them wanted Ying Zheng to eat these 2 blood pearls of ancestral sorcerer. But at this time, if they wanted to stop Ying Zheng, everyone felt powerless. Although it was not that they couldn't beat Ying Zheng, after all, there was still Li Bai and so many immortal sword wielders. Ying Zheng could not possibly be a match for them if they joined forces. But after such a civil war, how much power would the human race have left? Don't forget that there were still 5 Zhu Wus outside, and they were eyeing them like tigers watching their prey. How could the human race fight among themselves at this time? Therefore, although they knew that Ying Zheng was really a selfish guy, they could only watch helplessly as Ying Zheng once again swallowed these 2 Zhu blood beads. Even Long Shizhendi had become silent at this moment. Wait. At this critical moment, a somewhat weak voice rang out. Frost Zhendi. Your Majesty Frost. Great, you've finally woken up. Seeing Liuyan Ling appear on the city wall, many immortal sword wielders suddenly cried out in excitement. Seeing Liuyan Ling, everyone felt as if they had seen a brand new pillar of support. His Majesty Dragon Lion has used up too much of his strength, so he can't cut through the blood orb. Why don't you let me try? I'm sure the 3-foot sword will be more than happy to cut through the 2 ancestral shaman blood orbs. Chapter 1440. I'm afraid that's not a good idea. Miss Ling, you have just woken up. If you borrow the power of the human Dao sword Maiden again, won't you lose your body again? Moreover, the 1-meter sword may not necessarily be able to cut this blood bead. Instead of wasting its power, I think Miss Ling should go back and have a good rest, and prepare to kill the 8th Zhu Wu. Ying Zheng's expression instantly became gloomy. I think you should know that as the end of the era of the Wu people, only the power of the human Dao can cut this Zhu Wu blood bead. Liuyan Ling walked to the side of the 2 huge Zhu Wu blood bead, and at the same time waved the 1-meter sword in her hand and said, I don't need to use too much strength. I just need to cut it lightly, and this Zhu Wu blood bead will be broken. After saying this, Liuyan Ling's 1-meter sword was about to cut the body of the Zhu Wu blood bead. How dare you? At this moment, Ying Zheng could no longer conceal himself. Without saying anything, his body instantly appeared next to the Zhu Wu blood bead, and directly slapped Liuyan Ling's body with his palm. Ying Zheng, your true face has finally been exposed, you sinner of humanity. Liuyan Ling shouted, and the 1-meter sword in her hand was instantly replaced with the Emperor Sword of Firmament, and then she started fighting with Ying Zheng on the city wall. This was also the first civil war between humans after they hid in Yuzhang City. No one had expected that at the final moment of victory, this civil war would actually start like this. Don't fight, don't fight. I beg you to, we humans can't afford to fight. Long Shizhendi looked at the battlefield in the sky and begged bitterly. Your Majesty Long Shi, haven't you seen the true face of this guy? He's only using us humans as chess pieces. He's only doing this for himself. I'll take him down today so that he won't harm us again. Fleeting Time Lin said. I'll kill him today. Fleeting Time Lin shouted. Humph, these Zhu Wu blood beads can indeed increase my strength. I really do want these Zhu Wu blood beads. But what's wrong with me doing this? If I become stronger, wouldn't there be a higher chance for humanity to survive? Instead, it's you, Frost Zhendi. You actually dare to betray the human race at such a crucial time. I will sentence you to the death of your entire family. Ying Zheng coldly said. You want to kill my entire clan? Let's see if you have the ability. When will you be a match for me, Liuyan Ling? Liuyan Ling coldly snorted. This was the truth. Even after becoming Zhu Wu, Ying Zheng had never been a match for Liuyan Ling. This was publicly acknowledged. After all, there was the billion swords technique. Moreover, no desolate-level Yuan Ku would dare to say that they could defeat an emperor sword wielder from the Liunyan family. Moreover, in terms of actual combat, Ying Zheng could only be evenly matched against a single Zhu Wu. Even if the two of them fought for a month, there might not be a clear winner. However, Liuyan Ling and Li Bai only needed around 10 minutes to kill a single Zhu Wu. This kind of strength was undoubtedly above Ying Zheng's. Is that so? Then let's give it a try. However, Ying Zheng did not show any fear. Instead, his face showed an expression of eagerness. Just like that, the two of them began to fight on the city wall of Yuzhang City. In an instant, the entire Yuzhang City began to fall apart. The refugees who were huddled on the streets of Yuzhang City looked up at the sky, trembling. They could not understand why the battle had suddenly entered the city. Could it be that the dimensional wall of Yuzhang City had been destroyed? Thinking of this, the refugees, who had been relatively calm, began to run frantically toward the core area. They felt that the core area had a dimensional wall that should be able to protect them. Therefore, although the battle did not affect these refugees, they still began to cause a huge commotion. Then, it evolved into tens of millions of people running. For a moment, there were frequent trampling accidents, and tens of thousands of people died under the feet of others. Send some of the sword-bearers to maintain order. Don't let these people die under the feet of their own people. Seeing the huge commotion on the streets, Long Shijendi bitterly said. A portion of the sword-bearers immediately obeyed and began to maintain order. However, the person in charge of maintaining order quickly reported that there were too many people, and that the sword-bearers could not maintain order. Moreover, these crazy refugees did not listen to the sword-bearers' explanations. Kill. Whoever disobeys, kill them for me. The Dragon Lion Sword Emperor was very courageous. He directly gave the sword-bearers who were in charge of maintaining order the right to kill. As a result, these sword-bearers killed tens of thousands of disobedient refugees on the spot. As a result, the order of the entire street gradually stabilized. You too. I beg you, don't fight anymore. If you continue to fight, humanity will be finished. Don't tell me you want me to kneel down and beg you, Long Shijendi bitterly said. After saying that, the two of them separated for real. However, it was not that the two of them chose to stop fighting. Instead, Frost Jendi was directly sent flying by Ying Zheng's fist. He heavily hit the city wall, and his whole body was hit by a dozen mouthfuls of blood. You, are actually, so strong. Liuyan Ling's eyes were filled with despair as she muttered to herself. She did not think that Ying Zheng would actually be strong to this extent. You really are a fool. I have already eaten 5 Zhu Wu blood beads. Is it not normal for my strength to increase a little? Ying Zheng sneered and said, Ari, in fact, it is also because you are too stupid. Before, you used up so much of your life force, and now you only have this little life left. I also took advantage of you a little, otherwise the two of us should be evenly matched. Don't be too proud. I still have the 3-foot sword. I can still kill you. Although she had spat out a dozen mouthfuls of blood, Liuyan Ling still forced herself to stand up. Yes, I am indeed still not your opponent with the 3-foot sword. However, I am not those useless Zhu Wu. I am the Zhu Wu who has already eaten 5 Zhu Wu blood beads. Even if I cannot beat you, I can still escape without a problem. However, if you use the 3-foot sword in Yuzhang City, I am afraid that hundreds of millions of people will die under your sword. Perhaps even the entire human race will die. Do you really dare to use the 3-foot sword to hit me? Ying Zheng said without fear. However, this way, Ying Zheng could be considered to have completely given up on hiding his true purpose. However, right now he did not care about this, and directly ate the remaining 2 Zhu Wu blood beads into his stomach. At this time, the sword-bearers were in a state of confusion. Although they had completely understood Ying Zheng's true colors, they sadly found that they could not do anything to Ying Zheng. They did not even have the courage to fall out with Ying Zheng. Apparently, Ying Zheng had seen through the thoughts of everyone present, so he became gentle and firm again and said, Please believe me, everyone. I am still sitting on the side of the human race, and I am always the bloodline of the human race, the first emperor of the human race. I am willing to swear on my future luck that I, Ying Zheng, will always be on the side of the human race, and will fight to protect the human race. However, everyone has their own selfish motives. Some people want more money, some people want to play with beautiful women, and some people want to seize more power. In fact, you are the same. You all have your own selfish motives. You also want to become stronger, and you want to go one step further to become an emperor sword-level sword-bearer. Just like all of you, I also want to become stronger, and the only way for me to become stronger is with this ancestral witch's blood pearl. Therefore, I've asked all of you to sacrifice 30 seconds so that I can become stronger. Isn't this a very normal thing to do? Ying Zheng's eyes were curved into crescents as he glanced at everyone. How about this? Let's make a deal. I promise to help all of you kill the remaining 5 ancestral sorcerers, and all of you just have to give me the remaining 5 ancestral sorcerers' blood beads. This is a fair deal. What do you think? Silence. The entire city wall was dead silent. No one knew what to say at this time. I agree. As Ying Zheng's confidant, Lu Yin, of course, was the first to jump out and say, I completely agree, this is a fair deal. I agree too. I also agree. The rest of the immortal sword-level sword-bearers who were Ying Zheng's subordinates also expressed their agreement one after another. Most people followed blindly, and when most of them began to express their opinions, the others chose to follow them. In the end, even Longsha Jendi nodded tacitly, as if he approved of this deal. We came here to give face to Guhan, to protect Guhan's hometown, but not to accompany you in these shameful deals. You play by yourself. We won't accompany you, Misaka Mikoto said with a face full of disgust. The other Yuan Ku who came to help also expressed their opinions, including Li Bai. None of the Yuan Ku would help. What about you? Your Majesty Liuanian Jendi? Ying Zheng looked at Liuanian Ling and asked curiously. I agree, Liuanian Ling said through gritted teeth. Very well, it's a unanimous decision. Then, let's begin the final battle. This time, our goal is to kill all the remaining Zhu Wus in one go, Ying Zheng said as he looked at the ancestral sorcerers outside the city wall, who had finally learned their lesson and given up on the encirclement strategy. We won. Long live. We won. After 8 hours, the entire Yuzhang city was filled with deafening cheers. This was because the last Zhu Wu had finally fallen under Ying Zheng's weapon. After 8 hours of hard fighting, this battle against the 5 Zhu Wus had miraculously ended with humanity's victory. After his true identity had been revealed and he had consumed 7 Zhu Wu's blood orbs, Ying Zheng finally stopped hiding himself and revealed his true strength. He had transformed into a terrifying figure that was 3 times larger than the normal Zhu Wus. What was even more terrifying was that Ying Zheng had single-handedly restrained 4 Zhu Wus. After revealing his true strength, he was strong enough to fight against 4 Zhu Wus at the same time. Meanwhile, the remaining human forces, including Liuanian Ling, attacked the remaining Zhu Wus with all their might. After paying a heavy price, they finally succeeded in killing the Zhu Wu's Emperor Jiang. After that, the battle was even simpler. Humanity only needed to cooperate with Ying Zheng to fight against the remaining 4 Zhu Wus. This was a battle that they were sure to win. Although the Zhu Wus had launched their last desperate struggle, one after another, under the joint efforts of humanity and Ying Zheng, they succumbed one after another, until the last Hu-Tu, who had the strongest defense, died, and Ying Zheng dug out the Zhu Wu's blood orb. Humanity had finally won. They had finally killed all 12 Zhu Wus. But humanity had also paid a heavy price. At the beginning of the battle, more than 30 sword immortal level sword-bearers had their sword immortal level sword ladies broken. Only 8 sword immortal level sword ladies had survived. What was even more tragic was Longsha Jendi. At the most intense moment of the battle, Longsha Jendi had actually left the battlefield with his own sword immortal level sword lady. But this Emperor sword immortal level expert was old, after all. In the face of Emperor Jiang's final fatal blow, he did not manage to evade it. His personal shield had collapsed, and he was on his last breath. Liuanian Ling had once again consumed a large amount of vitality. Her body was teetering, and she would soon fall into a coma again. Her hair had completely turned white, and she looked no different from Long Shijendi's body. All right, everyone, we can celebrate our victory. The final winner was still Ying Zheng. Although he had suffered quite a number of injuries, he was still as carefree as before the battle began, and still had the same air of high spirits. He raised the Zhu Wu's blood orb that he had just obtained high in the air, and as if he was raising a glass of red wine, he said to all the remaining people, "Let us celebrate this victory, and at the same time, celebrate the arrival of a new era. This is my era, my dear subjects. From now on, I am your supreme emperor." Chapter 1441. 12. The 12 blood beads of the ancestral sorcerer are finally mine. I can finally surpass the limits of the ancestral sorcerer and return to my roots. I can condense the real body of Pangu and become an existence that surpasses the untainted land. I can become the supreme Pangu. After swallowing the last 5 Zhu Wu blood beads in one gulp, Ying Zheng began to laugh wildly. His state of madness was even crazier than Fan Jin's. Break. After obtaining 12 ancestral witch blood pearls, it was only natural that Ying Zheng wanted to test how strong his newly acquired power was. Therefore, Ying Zheng casually waved his hands in the air, and the entire void was torn apart in an instant. A void door that was as tall as the wizard ancestor's height was opened just like that. Oh my god! Such a huge void door. Long Shijendi, who had completely lost control of his body and could only rely on the support of others, stared at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape. As an Emperor Sword-level swordbearer, opening a void door was naturally a trivial thing for Long Shijendi. Even for Long Shijendi, the maximum size of the void door that he could open was only a few tens of meters. Long Shijendi's strength would not be able to achieve a bigger size. However, Ying Zheng, who was in front of him, had opened a void door that was at least 1,000 meters high with a gentle stroke of his hand. Its size was more than 10 times larger than Long Shijendi's void door. This was simply beyond Long Shijendi's imagination. "Open for me." Ying Zheng continued to test his power. This time, he chose to directly pound his fist on the ground, and then the whole ground began to tremble violently. Then the whole ground began to crack, and finally formed a huge crack that was hundreds of meters wide and stretched for dozens of kilometers. This was also a power that made all the swordbearers feel inferior. No. This is still too abstract. I still can't know to what extent my power has reached. Ying Zheng seemed to be somewhat dissatisfied with such a test, because such a test could not let him know exactly how strong he had become. Therefore, Ying Zheng turned around and walked to the side of Yuzhang City. He looked at the ring of dimensional barrier outside the city and fell into deep thought. This guy, he won't want to. Long Shijendi and Liuanian Ling simultaneously had an ominous premonition gushing out from their hearts as they loudly spoke to Ying Zheng. "Your Majesty Ying Zheng, what do you want to do? Do you want to destroy Yuzhang City? Don't worry, I just want to see how strong I am now. Just let me give you a punch, let me gather all the strength in my body and give you a punch," Ying Zheng said with a ferocious expression. It turned out that in order to test the extent of his power, Ying Zheng had decided to use the dimensional barrier of Yuzhang City as a touchstone. He wanted to punch the dimensional barrier of Yuzhang City with all his strength, so that he could accurately measure how strong Ying Zheng's current strength was through the degree of energy loss of the dimensional barrier. It had to be said that this was indeed a very good test method. But with such a punch, only the ordinary sword-bearers who provided the sword elements for the dimensional barrier of Yuzhang City would be injured. Ying Zheng was making a joke out of the sword elements of these ordinary sword-bearers. "Ying Zheng, if you want to try it on Yuan Ku, you can also fight the Martyr's Palace and test your fist on those prehistoric Yuan Ku. How can you use Yuzhang City as a test?" Liuanian Ling said angrily. "Shut up. There is no room for you to speak here, and no one can disobey my will." Ying Zheng, who now possessed great power, did not need to care about anyone, nor did he need to wear any mask. He directly said what he wanted to say in his heart. "You." Liuanian Ling wanted to say something more, but Long Shijendi stopped Liuanian Ling and said weakly, "Forget it, it's just consuming some energy, it won't hurt people's lives. Just let him be. The most important thing now is not to provoke him, Otherwise our human race will be finished. Damn it. Hearing Long Shijendi's words, even if Liuyan Ling was unwilling, she could only shut her mouth and let Ying Zheng gather all the strength in his body and directly hit the dimensional barrier of Yuzhang City. Boom. There was a loud noise as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking. All the people of Yuzhang City felt a ringing in their ears, as if their heads were about to explode, and the whole world became dizzy. This was a reaction that occurred under the protection of the dimensional barrier. Without the protection of the dimensional barrier, it was estimated that all the people of Yuzhang City would have died from the shock. Tell me, how much energy has the dimensional barrier lost? After the punch, Ying Zheng immediately asked the human on the city wall. 18%. Long live His Majesty. His Majesty's punch has destroyed 18% of the energy of the dimensional barrier. The sword-bearer on the city wall took a look at the data of the dimensional barrier and immediately screamed to Ying Zheng. Heavens! 18%, the joint attack of 12 Zhu Wus could only destroy 8% of the energy. The power of this Ying Zheng's punch is equivalent to the joint attack of 27 Zhu Wus. This is terrible. This is really terrible. Hearing this data, Long Shijendi fell to the ground. This was a kind of power that made humans feel despair. Long Shijendi's sword with all his strength could only destroy 0.6% of the energy. According to this calculation, the current Ying Zheng was equivalent to the power of 30 Long Shijendis. How could this not make Long Shijendi feel terrified? In fact, even Liuyan Ling's face was now full of fear. This Ying Zheng was really too strong, and he was so strong that he was invincible in the world. Perhaps no one in the whole world could be Ying Zheng's opponent. Perhaps no opponent could withstand his punch. This was really too strong. Alas, he defeated 12 monsters, but created a monster that is more than twice as terrifying as the 12 monsters. What kind of sin have we committed? Long Shijendi, who got up from the ground again, lamented. He seemed to have seen the scene of human beings being ruled by such a monster. Is this the power of Pangu? Ying Zheng seemed to be shocked by his own power. He looked at his fist, and his face became more and more arrogant. He glanced at all the sword-bearers around him and said, "You all can see that I am invincible in the world. I am the strongest, and no one can stand in front of me anymore. From today on, I will be the emperor of all mankind. I will use this peerless power to sweep away all the Yuan coups, and let mankind become the master of this world again. And I will also be the eternal emperor of mankind." Ying Zheng announced to everyone, and then his body began to shrink from the form of Zhu Wu, and finally changed back to human form. He was ready to take a step onto the city wall of Yuzhang City. Bang! As a result, under the gaze of all the people, Ying Zheng was very embarrassed and directly hit the dimensional barrier. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes revealed a look of horror. Ying Zheng was actually blocked by the dimensional barrier, which was something that had never happened before. It must be known that the dimensional barrier had always only blocked Yuan coups, and never blocked human beings. Therefore, human beings could pass through the dimensional barrier freely, but for those Yuan coups who came to help, they had to be helped by a sword-bearer with an emperor's sword in a dimensional pocket. Through the power of the emperor's sword and the dimensional pocket, these Yuan coups could pass through the dimensional barrier. Including Li Bai, every Yuan coups who wanted to pass through the dimensional barrier had to go through the dimensional pocket. The dimensional barrier had such an absolute exclusivity, so when people found that Ying Zheng could pass through the dimensional barrier freely, they knew that Ying Zheng was indeed a native human being, and was different from Yuan Ku and Zhu Wu. Therefore, they chose to believe that Ying Zheng was on the side of mankind. But now, a miraculous situation had occurred. Ying Zheng was actually blocked by the dimensional barrier. Didn't this mean that Ying Zheng had changed from a human being to a Yuan Ku? Why? Why is this happening? Ying Zheng could not understand this, so he looked at his body blankly and said, "H, you might not understand, but I do." Isis suddenly laughed and said, "Don't forget, the reason why you have the power you have now is because you have consumed 12 Zhu Wu's blood beads. Although you have absorbed the power of these 12 Zhu Wu's blood beads, at the same time, you have also absorbed the dimensional power in them. You have changed from a human being to a yuan ku. That's why the dimensional barrier is blocking you this time, because you are no longer a human being. Ha 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 ha. Nonsense. I am not yuan ku, I am a human being. Ying Zheng's eyes were burning with anger at Isis's words. He tried to pass through the dimensional barrier again, but it still blocked him. After this happened a few times, Ying Zheng's identity as a yuan ku was confirmed. Very well, if you dare to block me, then there is no need for you to exist anymore. Ying Zheng was completely enraged. He raised his fist again. Before Liuyan Ling and the others could stop him, their fists had already landed on the dimensional barrier. One punch from Ying Zheng was able to deplete 18% of the energy of the dimensional barrier, and when his fists rained down on it like a thunderstorm, there was no way the dimensional barrier could hold on. As a result, the dimensional barrier, which had held on for more than a month under the attacks of the 12 ancestral sorcerers, was shattered by Ying Zheng in less than a dozen seconds. In the end, with a deafening explosion, the dimensional barrier of Yuzhong City collapsed just like that. Very good, this is originally something from the old era, and it should be completely erased. Looking at the collapsing dimensional barrier, Ying Zheng nodded his head in satisfaction. His lips curved into a bright smile as he said, I hereby announce that from today onwards, mankind will no longer need the protection of the super-dimensional barrier system. As long as I'm alive, mankind will be safe, and I will share the same destiny with mankind. Ha 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 ha. It's over, crazy. Long Shi body went limp again, and then he directly fainted. He seemed to have seen the tragic future of human beings. Chapter 1442. In the next 12 days, the whole of Yuzhong City fell into an indescribable state of confusion and busyness. Although 12th Zhu Wu had been killed, Yuzhong City had been successfully defended in the end, and human beings had the protection of an unprecedentedly terrifying expert. It stood to reason that all the surviving human beings should be extremely happy and feel that the future was full of hope. But at this time, all the human beings were at a loss. They suddenly found that they could no longer see the future clearly, because they had fallen into a situation that they had never been in before. After Ying Zheng shattered the superdimensional wall that day, he strictly forbade human beings from reactivating the superdimensional wall system in Yuzhong City again, and then announced to all human beings that they would never use the superdimensional wall system again in the future. Human beings had entered a new era where they no longer needed to hide in an eggshell and struggle to survive. Ying Zheng's words were very beautiful, but all the human beings had completely lost their sense of security. Ying Zheng was indeed strong, but he was only one person after all, and it was impossible for him to take care of everything. Once human beings lost the protection of the superdimensional wall system, Yuan Ku could sneak into human cities at any time. At that time, the cities would probably become Yuan Ku's killing ground. Every day, a large number of humans would die under Yuan Ku's slaughter, and everyone would have to live in fear. After understanding this, all the human beings had fallen into a situation where they had completely lost their sense of security. However, this was not the scariest thing. What was more frightening was what Ying Zheng did next. After the battle that day, Ying Zheng asked all the swordbearers to come to the square of Yuzhong City, and in front of countless cameras, he ordered all the swordbearers to kneel in front of him to show their allegiance. Although Zhendi had a name with the word emperor in it 1,000 years ago, and many humans had taken the initiative to kneel before Zhendi, this was all voluntary. Even in the face of an ordinary person, no Zhendi had ever dared to order this ordinary person to kneel before him. Kneeling or not kneeling was a human's freedom. Zhendi would never force anyone to do this, nor would he care about it. Even ordinary people depended on their own will to decide whether to kneel or not. Unless they had some special relationship, even an ancient sword wielder would not voluntarily kneel before a Zhendi. All sword wielder were taught from a young age that being a sword wielder was the noblest profession in the world. A sword wielder would only kneel before their parents. Even if the heavens were in front of them, they would not kneel. Otherwise, they would lose their dignity as a sword wielder. Therefore, there had never been a Zhendi who dared to ask a sword wielder with a clear conscience to kneel in front of him. Not to mention, all sword wielders had to kneel before him. But Ying Zheng did it, and everyone could understand what he was thinking. What Ying Zheng wanted was not to be an emperor like Zhendi, but an emperor like the first emperor he was. He wanted all humans to kneel before him, to become his subjects and slaves, and he would become a member of the human race, just like what the first emperor had done in the past. And if they knelt before Ying Zheng today, they would probably have to kneel before Ying Zheng forever in the future. Therefore, in the face of Ying Zheng's orders, many of the sword-bearers chose to uphold their dignity and refused to obey Ying Zheng's ridiculous orders. In the end, these sword-bearers all died. Ying Zheng personally killed these sword-bearers and even broke their sword ladies. It was a very sad and ridiculous scene. A sword-bearer who was risking his life for the sake of humanity just a moment ago had now died in the hands of the human emperor. Faced with the threat of death, some people chose to persevere, but more people chose to surrender. In the end, after killing 3 more immortal sword-bearers and over 100 other sword-bearers, the remaining sword-bearers finally lost their dignity, and had no choice but to kneel before Ying Zheng. The Yuan Qian who came to support could not stand it anymore, and immediately opened the gate of the void, turned around, and left. As for Liuanian Ling and Long Zhendi, Long Zhendi was lying on the bed with only one breath left, and Ying Zheng could not be bothered with this emperor sword-wielder who was about to ascend to heaven. As for Liuanian Ling, after Ying Zheng announced the order to kneel, she disappeared from Yuzhong City, and never showed her face again. Since the sword-wielder had knelt, the rest of the ordinary humans no longer had the courage to stand up, and they all knelt down, leaving only Ying Zheng, who was high and mighty, laughing at the sky. Next, Ying Zheng announced a series of measures and orders. First, he would build a human empire, and he, Ying Zheng, would become the first and eternal first emperor of the human empire. The name of Yuzhong City would be changed to Holy Capital, and at the same time, Holy Capital would be the capital of the human empire. From then on, humans would use Holy Capital as the center to reclaim the ownership of the entire earth, and kill all the Yuan Ku who dared to stop them. Next, every household had to hang a portrait of the first emperor of the human empire. Every morning, noon, afternoon, evening, and night, people had to kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times in front of his portrait to show their respect to the first emperor of the human empire. Then, within 12 days, the entire Holy Capital had to be cleaned up, and all the damaged houses had to be repaired. At the same time, the entire core area had to be transformed into the palace of the human empire, and he, the first emperor, would be enthroned in the palace 12 days later, officially becoming the first emperor of the human empire. His Majesty, the first emperor, also had to carry out a concubine selection activity. Within 12 days, he had to choose 3,000 concubines and 30,000 palace maids to serve him, the first emperor of the human empire. Oh, right, the first emperor had also announced the aristocratic system, and all the sword-wielder had become aristocrats. Some important sword-wielder had even been appointed to official positions. For example, Lu Yin had been appointed as the head steward of the imperial palace, and Frost Zhendi had been appointed as the right prime minister. Also, Long Zhendi had been appointed as the left prime minister, and Frost Zhendi had been appointed as the right prime minister. Also, something worth mentioning was that Long Zhendi and Frost Zhendi's Zhendi titles had been stripped, and they had been changed to Sword King. The reason for this was because the title emperor could only be used by the first emperor, and no one else had the right to use it. Thus, Long Zhendi and Frost Zhendi had become Long Sword King and Frost Sword King respectively. This was a title that made everyone laugh and feel despair. In any case, after one night, the sword-wielder discovered that they had all sorts of strange official positions. This had already made these sword-wielders' worldview explode. It wasn't just these sword-wielder. In these short 12 days, every single human's worldview had been greatly impacted, and the entire society had undergone earth-shattering changes. The old order had begun to quickly collapse, and a new order had begun to be born. However, this new order had caused humanity to return to an even more ancient order. Humanity didn't want to see this kind of order appear. They also began to regret handing over all of their power to Ying Zheng, that madman. But now, they had already lost the power to choose and change. Ying Zheng's power alone had surpassed the power of 12 Zhu Wus. This made it impossible for humanity to even think of rebelling. Although the entire Yuzhang city was currently in a state of turmoil, and countless people wanted to rebel against all of this, they believed that as long as Yingzheng had enough time, under the suppression of Yingzheng's power, humanity would sooner or later adapt to this new order. Then, they would begin to take the initiative to protect this order. Countless cycles of history had already proven this point. The premise was that no one could resist Yingzheng's power. 12 days later, the entire Yuzhang city was fluttering with red flags and noisy gongs and drums. Under the pressure of Yingzheng's power, the core area of Yuzhang city had completely changed in just 12 days. It had changed from a bustling city to a large palace complex that seemed to have come from the Qin dynasty. This was thanks to the modern construction technology that was like black technology. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to achieve this in 12 days. At this time, the entire palace was filled with a dense crowd. Looking from the sky, all one could see were black human heads. At the outermost periphery of the palace were the humans who had forcibly come under Yingzheng's order. These humans stretched from the palace to the ordinary district, occupying almost half of the area of Yuzhang city. At the center of the palace was a high platform named by Yingzheng as the heaven-suppressing platform. This was the core area of Yingzheng's coronation ceremony. At this time, Yingzheng had not yet appeared, but the heaven-suppressing platform was already densely packed with people. These people were all sword-wielder, and at this time, they were wearing robes of different colors. According to Yingzheng, these were official robes specially designed for them. The auspicious time has come, especially for His Majesty's coronation, a sharp voice shouted loudly. It was a fair-skinned, handsome young boy standing on the heaven-suppressing platform, but his legs were weak. This poor boy, because he had lost his parents, was caught and brought to the palace, becoming the first batch of eunuchs in the palace. Yes, the profession of eunuch had actually reappeared in this extremely modern world after 1,000 years. As the eunuch's voice faded away, an extremely luxurious golden dragon chariot appeared on the dragon path in front of the heaven-suppressing platform, carried by 200 people, and the person sitting on this dragon chariot was naturally the new emperor, Yingzheng. Yingzheng could have reached the heaven-suppressing platform faster through the void gate, but he chose to ride on the dragon chariot that required 200 people to carry at the same time. One could imagine the meaning behind this. His Majesty has ascended the throne, all officials kowtow. Yingzheng finally sat on the dragon throne on the heaven-suppressing platform, and the eunuch announced the next order in a loud voice. Below the heaven-suppressing platform, the sword-wielder looked at each other. Although their faces were filled with helplessness, in the end, they still knelt down obediently. After all, after 12 days of training, they were somewhat used to kneeling down. Read the imperial edict. Yingzheng had already written the imperial edict in his hand and handed it to the little eunuch beside him. The little eunuch took the edict with reverence and awe, and began to read it. In accordance with the will of the heavens, the imperial edict says. Yingzheng was very satisfied. With a face full of smiles, he listened to the little eunuch read the edict. He had finally done it, he had finally become the emperor of the human race once again. And this time, his dynasty would not collapse after only 23 years. This time, he must make his dynasty last through the ages, and rule over the human race for generations to come. Just as Yingzheng was fantasizing, the little eunuch who was reading the edict suddenly stopped. "What are you doing? You're courting death." Realizing that the edict had stopped, Yingzheng instantly cursed in anger. Just as he was about to scold the little eunuch, he suddenly realized that the little eunuch's eyes were staring straight ahead in surprise. At the same time, it was not just this little eunuch. At this moment, all the sword wielder below the platform did not look at Yingzheng, but at the distant sky. There, countless golden lightning flashed. There, countless illusions of dragons and phoenixes circled in the sky. There, dragon scales and phoenix cries resounded continuously in the sky. There, it was as if a real emperor was ascending the throne. It's Gendi. A sword wielder is ascending the throne. An immortal sword wielder below the platform could no longer control his mouth, and directly shouted. In fact, this sword wielder did not need to say it out loud. Everyone who saw this scene knew that this was a phenomenon that would only occur when an emperor sword wielder was ascending the throne. After all, every human had heard their friends and relatives describe the scene of Gendi's ascension more than once. They had also seen the shocking scene of Gendi's ascension more than once in videos. Therefore, all the humans understood at the first moment. The magical scene that appeared in the distance was that of an emperor sword wielder ascending the throne. This meant that the third emperor sword wielder of the human race had appeared. Damn it! There's actually an immortal sword wielder of the human race outside, and is ascending the throne at this time. Who is it? Who is it that has ascended the throne at this time? Ying Zheng's mind was a little confused. He had clearly gathered all the immortal sword wielder in Yuzhang City, so who was this sword wielder who was ascending the throne? Ying Zheng really could not figure it out at the moment. After a few minutes, all the strange phenomena disappeared. This also meant that the other party had finally ascended the throne, and had become a true emperor sword wielder. Forget it, emperor sword it is. Even if there are 10 more emperor sword wielder, so what? They are no match for me. Thinking of this, Ying Zheng snorted coldly. This cold snort was even louder than a clap of thunder, and it instantly shook the attention of the sword wielder who was paying attention to the strange phenomena in the distance. There's actually an immortal sword wielder who dares to ignore the heavy responsibility of protecting the human race and hide in a safe place to enjoy himself. Even if such a person ascends the throne, I will still suppress him and make him kneel in front of me, kowtow, and plead guilty, Ying Zheng said coldly. Don't be distracted by such boring things. Continue with the ascension ceremony. When the ascension ceremony is over, I will go and capture this traitor of the human race. There's no need for you to capture me. I've come to you, Your Majesty Ying Zheng. A clear and familiar voice rang out from afar. When they heard this voice, everyone was shocked as if they had been struck by lightning. This was because the person who had appeared in front of everyone was none other than Sword Immortal Shihua, who everyone thought had died in the hands of Zhu Wu. At this time, Lu Shihua no longer only had 5 scabbards on her body. A 6th dazzling golden scabbard was hanging on Lu Shihua's back, and an archangel with 12 pairs of wings stood behind Lu Shihua with a cold, expressionless gaze, silently watching everything in front of her. Sword Immortal Shihua. Oh, no. Shihua Gendi, she had returned. Chapter 1443. Lu Shihua. Lu Shihua. Didn't you die? Why are you still here? Ying Zheng was so shocked that he jumped up from his throne. He was even stuttering. This made those who knew Ying Zheng feel strange. Ying Zheng was the kind of person who wouldn't be shocked even if the sky collapsed. He always felt like he had everything under his control. He never showed any joy on his face. He always wore a mask. This was the first time the crowd had seen Ying Zheng lose his composure and look of shock. Even if Lu Shihua had reappeared and become an emperor, becoming an emperor sword-level sword wielder, there was no need to be so shocked. He was completely different from the domineering Ying Zheng from before. It was as if he was a completely different person. Yes, I'm alive. I crawled out of hell to collect my debt from you. Ying Zheng, it's time for you to return the life you owe me. Lu Shihua looked at Ying Zheng coldly and said, What a joke. When did I ever owe you my life? You died at the hands of the 12 Zhu Wu. What does that have to do with me? But I've already avenged you. The 12 Zhu Wu died at my hands. You should be thanking me. After the initial shock, calmness returned to Ying Zheng's face. He sat back on his dragon throne and spoke to Lu Shihua in the same cold voice. If you hadn't sent people to trick me into the 12 Zhu Wu's encirclement and sealed the void so I couldn't escape through the void, I wouldn't have died at the hands of the 12 Zhu Wu. Lu Shihua said something that shocked everyone. What? Sword Immortal Shihua died at the hands of Ying Zheng? I've said it before. Sword Immortal Shihua was very strange. From beginning to end, no one saw how Sword Immortal Shihua died. No one saw Sword Immortal Shihua's corpse either. There was only a video that circulated on the internet. I've long felt that there was something fishy about this. Oh my god. Why? Why would Ying Zheng frame Sword Immortal Shihua? There's no reason for that. I say, aren't you a little too naive? When Sword Immortal Shihua was still around, Ying Zheng was always suppressed by Sword Immortal Shihua. Frost Jendi also fully supported Sword Immortal Shihua. The leader of humanity has always been Sword Immortal Shihua. It has nothing to do with Ying Zheng. When Sword Immortal Shihua disappeared, Ying Zheng became the leader of mankind. Can't you see what's going on here? A few years ago, I already felt that the death of Sword Immortal Shihua had something to do with Ying Zheng. But at that time, humans couldn't live without Ying Zheng, and I didn't have any evidence, so I couldn't say much. Below the heaven-suppressing platform, a heated discussion instantly broke out. Everyone began to discuss what had happened when Lu Shihua died. Regarding what had happened in the past 12 days and Ying Zheng's performance, everyone naturally stood on Lu Shihua's side, instinctively believing that what Lu Shihua had said was true. Nonsense. We didn't know about this from the beginning to the end. And on the day you died, we were in Yangjing City from the beginning to the end. This is something that all the immortal sword-bearers in Yangjing City can testify for us. We didn't know that you were surrounded by Zhu Wu. Ying Zheng shouted loudly. His words caused some of the immortal sword-bearers to nod their heads. They could all testify to this. On that day, Ying Zheng really did stay in Yangjing City and didn't go out. Nonsense. On the day I was besieged by Yuanko, you were clearly nearby. You weren't in Yangjing City at all. Lu Shihua berated in a stern voice. How dare you? You're talking nonsense, we aren't lying. We were in Yangjing City that day. Ying Zheng also shouted back loudly. This scene looked like two children who hadn't grown up yet were quarreling. On December 7th, you were clearly outside, and you have the nerve to say that you were in Yangjing City. You're the one who's talking nonsense. You clearly died on December 8th. You were still in Yangjing City on December 7th, okay? As soon as Ying Zheng finished speaking, his face turned ghastly pale. He immediately realized that he had been led into a ditch by Lu Shihua. When Lu Shihua died, there was only a broken video. It was said that it was a video taken by a passing sword-bearer before he died. The video only showed that Lu Shihua was surrounded by 5 Zhu Wu. As for when Lu Shihua died, there was never a definite result. It could only be roughly deduced that he died between December 7th and December 12th. But now, Ying Zheng could directly say that Lu Shihua died on December 8th. How did Ying Zheng know this accurate date of death? Didn't this mean that Ying Zheng knew what had happened from the beginning to the end? As soon as Ying Zheng finished speaking, the entire imperial palace burst into an uproar. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence could tell that Ying Zheng was obviously lying. Although this lie could not directly prove that Lu Shihua was framed by Ying Zheng, if Ying Zheng did not frame Lu Shihua, why would he lie about this matter? It was obvious that he had a guilty conscience. Therefore, the identity of Ying Zheng as the murderer was further confirmed. The expression of the people looking at Ying Zheng became even more furious. Not only did Ying Zheng want to be the emperor, but he also colluded with Zhu Wu to kill Sword Immortal Shihua, whom everyone admired. And he still had the cheek to say that it was for the sake of mankind. This guy was really too vicious. Ying Zheng stopped talking. He looked at Lu Shihua with a gloomy face. No one knew what kind of insidious and vicious plan he was thinking under the mask. Ying Zheng stopped talking, but Lu Shihua still had something to say. Lu Shihua glanced at all the people below the heaven-suppressing platform, then fixed his eyes on the people standing at the front of the line of ministers. Although there was a little surprise on their faces, most of them were trembling in fear. Lu Yin, seeing that your sister has come back alive, shouldn't you, as her younger brother, stand up and congratulate her? Would you like to hug me? Lu Shihua looked at Lu Yin, who was now the chief steward of the palace and the minister of the heaven-suppressing platform. He could be said to be the third most senior official in the entire human empire. Although Lu Shihua said that he wanted to hug his younger brother, his tone and attitude were cold, like the east wind in January. Everyone who heard it couldn't help but shiver. Sister, it's great that you're all right. Lu Yin walked out, trembling. He did not even dare to look at his sister's face. He could only lower his head and say in fear, for the past 3 years, I've missed you so much every day. I've been immersed in pain every day. Sister. I still want to be the most loving brother and sister in the world. I still want to go back to the days before. Sister, let's forget the past and be together again. Hearing Lu Yin's words that were full of hints, many people understood. It seemed like Lu Yin's younger brother had done a lot of good things for Lu Shihua's death. What a joke. We're the most loving brother and sister in the world. Lu Shihua raised his head, trying hard not to let the tears in his eyes fall. 3 years ago, I really thought so. The two of us will always be the most loving brother and sister in the world. But on the 8th of December 3 years ago, it was you who destroyed my dream. I'm not worthy to be your sister. From now on, we're no longer siblings. You can just be the loyal minister of the first emperor. Sister. Lu Yin fell to his knees, kneeling in front of Lu Shihua. He cried out, Sister. I beg you, don't say any more. I beg you, don't say any more. No. I'm going to say it. I'm going to tell the world what the two of you did all those years ago. I'm going to let everyone in the world see your true colors. Lu Shihua said through gritted teeth. Then, the truth of Lu Shihua's death was revealed by Lu Shihua himself. That day, I was patrolling the city walls while preparing to ascend to the throne. Then, my little brother hurriedly ran over and told me that Master had suddenly contacted him. He said that Master had escaped from the seamless corridor, but he was heavily injured. In addition, he was surrounded and attacked by Yuan Ku in the Fog Spirit Mountain. He needed me to immediately go save him. If I was even a second late, Master's life would be in danger. At the time, I was worried about Master's safety. At the same time, I believed that my little brother wouldn't lie to me. So, I asked my little brother to inform the others to come save Master, while I rushed out by myself. I wanted to save Master as soon as possible. But when I got there, I discovered that it wasn't my master who was waiting for me. It was the 12 Zuwus hidden in the Fog Spirit Mountain. Amazing. Of the 12 Zuwus, 5 Zuwus appeared at the same time. And when I tried to escape through the void was completely sealed. I was just a mere immortal sword wielder. I didn't even have the ability to resist. I died at the hands of the 5 Zuwus. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that my little brother would do such a thing to me. He pushed me, his sister, into a pit of fire. My good little brother, you've made me so happy. You've finally grown up. You can even trick your sister. Sister. Don't say any more. Don't say any more. Faced with the truth from Lu Shihua's mouth, Lu Yin completely broke down. He knelt on the ground and kept crying, begging Lu Shihua to stop talking. I should have figured it out long ago. You've actually been possessed. When I refused to use the imperial blood to help you grow, you were no longer my little brother. And when Ying Zheng used the blood of the Zuwus to turn you into a so-called spiritual sword wielder, you became a demon that could even be tainted by my blood. Lu Yin, I heard that on the second day after I died, you became an immortal sword wielder. I really have to congratulate you. You've finally achieved your dream after so many years. But I want to ask you something. If you still want to be an imperial sword wielder, where are you going to get the blood of the Sui clan? I wonder if the blood of this Ying Zheng can help you to take another step forward. After Lu Shihua said this, the entire truth became completely clear. Lu Yin had been tempted by Ying Zheng, and in order to become an immortal tier sword wielder, he had cooperated with Ying Zheng to murder his own sister. This was the truth that shocked everyone, and it was hard for them to believe. Don't say any more. Don't say any more. I was wrong. Sister. I'll return my life to you. Lu Yin kowtowed to Lu Shihua 3 times. Then, he pulled out the sword lady from his body and slashed at his own neck without hesitation. Stop. No. 2 waves of sword chi rushed towards Lu Yin at the same time. Before the sword lady in Lu Yin's hand could touch his neck, it had already been sent flying. At this moment, Lu Shihua's right hand made a gesture of flying outwards. Clearly, one of the 2 sword energies was shot out by Lu Shihua. Lu Shihua was still Lucifer after all, and she was also Lu Yin's biological sister. Although she hated her younger brother very much, when her younger brother was about to commit suicide, she was the first one to save him. Chapter 1444. Sword Immortal Shihua. Oh, no. Shihua Jendi, although you have improved and become an emperor, it seems that you are still not strong enough. It seems like your strength is still not enough. You're actually so much slower than me. How can you save your brother's life like this? Ying Zheng said with a smile on his face. At this time, Ying Zheng had completely regained his composure and had returned to the demeanor of an emperor. And the truth was just as Ying Zheng had said. Although Lu Shihua had struck, his sword energy was still one step too slow. The one who managed to knock Lu Yin's sword away before Lu Shihua did was actually Ying Zheng, who was standing on the dais. Moreover, Ying Zheng's sword chi was about twice as fast as Lu Shihua's sword chi. It should be known that Ying Zheng was not a professional sword wielder. His real profession was Zhu Wu, and he relied on his physical strength to fight. Ying Zheng only knew a little about sword chi. Someone who knew a little about something could be faster than Lu Shihua, who was a professional. From this, one could clearly see the gap between Ying Zheng and Lu Shihua. Although Lu Shihua had become an emperor and had become an emperor sword wielder, she was still no match for Ying Zheng. Lu Yin, you're a man, so you have to do something big. Women are just a toy in your hand. It is natural for you to pave the way for your brother's future. Why do you want to die for such a small thing? Sigh, it seems that all the teaching I have given you over the past few years has been in vain. You are still the little trash you were back then. Little idiot, you have even forgotten what you should really pursue. Remember this, you have done nothing wrong. You are just working hard for your own future. You have chosen the most correct path. As for everything that stands in your way, you should get rid of them completely. Although Ying Zheng's words were directed at Lu Yin, it was loud and clear in everyone's ears. You are right. You are not wrong. You are just working hard for your own future. When Ying Zheng said those words, it also proved that what Lu Shihua had said was true. What Lu Yin had done back then was the truth, and he, Ying Zheng, was the mastermind behind all of it. Ying Zheng, you finally admitted it. You finally admitted what you did back then. Lu Shihua clenched her fists tightly and looked at Ying Zheng, whose expression did not change. There was even a hint of playfulness and mockery in his eyes. That's right, I admit it. What you said is true. These things were indeed done by me in the past. Ying Zheng nodded his head and said with some remorse, I was really stupid just now. I was actually scared by your sudden appearance. I really lost my composure. It turned out that Ying Zheng's remorse was actually this. I actually forgot that I am now an existence that has surpassed the chaos and the Emperor's sword. I already possess the power equivalent to 27 Zhu Wus. Are there 27 Primeval or Emperor sword wielders in this world? I don't think so. In other words, even if all the primordial era and Emperor sword level existences in the world appeared before me at the same time, I could still easily kill them. Let me tell you, I already have the power to suppress the world. I only need to move my little finger now to kill you, and I can even kill everyone here. Then what do I have to fear? Why can't I admit it? That's right. This is the one who contacted the 12 Zhu Wus back then. This is the one who used Zhu Wu's blood essence as bait to lure your brother. This is the one who sent you to hell with a simple trick of mine. I have admitted all these. How about it? I'll give you a chance. You can kill me now and see if you have the ability to avenge what happened back then. Ying Zheng flicked his sleeves and stood opposite Lu Shihua. At the same time, he waved his left hand at Lu Shihua, indicating that Lu Shihua could kill him now. Lu Shihua did not speak, nor did he really attack Ying Zheng. Instead, he glanced at the quiet crowd below the heaven-suppressing platform. Then, the entire palace fell into a strange silence. I've waited for a minute. Why haven't you done anything yet? Ying Zheng laughed out loud. He also glanced at the quiet crowd and said, I understand. You know that you can't beat me, so you want to get help from these people, hoping that they will join forces with you to deal with me, right? Lu Shihua still did not speak, nor did he express his stance. On the contrary, the sword-bearers could not help but take a step back in fear. Then, they lowered their heads, not daring to look at him or say a word. With such a guilty expression, it was clear what these sword-bearers were thinking. Let me tell you, there are fools and smart people in this world. The fools were killed by me 12 days ago, and their bodies have been burned to ashes. The rest are all smart people. See, these people are smart people. They know that their lives are precious. Why should they waste them on meaningless things? Isn't it good to be alive? Isn't it good to be my people? They won't help you, because they will only stand on the side of the strong. Come, let me ask you this. Is there anyone who wants to avenge Sword Immortal Xihua? Stand out now and stand together with Sword Emperor Xihua. Let me have a good look and see if all of you are smart or not. As soon as Ying Zheng's voice faded away, the heads of these sword-bearers lowered even lower. Oh, it seems that everyone is very smart. Ying Zheng laughed even more happily. Since everyone is so smart, then I'll tell you one more thing. These 12 Zhu Wus were originally living well in Shanhai Pass. It was I who sneaked into Shanhai Pass and made contact with these Zhu Wus. I used the freedom of these Zhu Wus to exchange for a drop of Zhu Wu's blood essence from each of them. It was with the help of these 12 drops of Zhu Wu's blood essence that I was able to become the 13th Zhu Wu in this world. What do you think? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? It was I who killed all the retired swordbearers in Shanhai Pass and released the 12 Zhu Wus. Speaking of which, these Zhu Wus are really trustworthy. They really gave me the blood essence just like that. If they had killed me at that time, they wouldn't have to die today. This is really interesting. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, Ying Zheng's arrogance had reached the extreme. Without waiting for Lu Shihua to interrogate him, he directly told the truth about the escape of the 12 Zhu Wus. And when they suddenly heard this even more unbelievable news, all the swordbearers, who had lowered their heads just now, raised their heads again and stared at Ying Zheng with endless hatred in their eyes. It never occurred to them that this tragedy, which had caused the destruction of the world and caused the death of nearly 200 million people and 60,000 to 70,000 swordbearers, which was equivalent to 1/3 of the total human population, was actually done by the man they had believed in for 3 years, followed for 3 years, and even regarded as their leader. At this moment, these swordbearers were on the verge of a mental breakdown. Ying Zheng, I'm going to kill you. Suddenly, a famous swordbearer charged out from the crowd. The sword lady behind him even thrust her sword directly at Ying Zheng's heart. Many people knew this swordbearer. He was a swordbearer whose parents and siblings had all died in Yangjing City, and he was the only one who had escaped alone. Boring. Ying Zheng waved his hand, and the swordbearer and his sword lady were sent flying away together. At the same time, the lower half of his body was completely smashed, leaving only his head looking at Ying Zheng in the sky with despair. ******************** Lu Shihua angrily made a move. A stream of sword qi wrapped around the head of the sword wielder. Then, he quickly placed the head into his immortal sword-grade medical pod. With the medical pod, the human sword wielder's life was saved. Oh! Finally, someone with guts has come. Fine, I don't need guts here, I just need smart people. Now that you all know the truth, those with guts can go behind Shihua Jendi, and then I will send you all to heaven with her. Come on, go quickly. I'll give you all 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, if you're still here, forget about your guts and don't bury your hatred for me. Be obedient and be my subjects, and I guarantee that your future will be infinitely bright. You will all become heroes of mankind, and the future generations will never know about your choice today. You will all definitely become heroes in the history books, I promise you. I believe that you will all make the right decision, Ying Zheng said with great confidence. He believed that when faced with a life-threatening situation, everyone would definitely make the right decision. Ying Zheng, even if we die, we will never forget this hatred. However, to Ying Zheng's dismay, Graceful Sword Immortal, who was once a hardcore fan, was the first to jump out and walk behind Lu Shihua without hesitation. Then, more people began to walk behind Lu Shihua, like an endless tide. In the end, Ying Zheng's eyes almost popped out. He did not expect that in the end, nearly 70,000 swordbearers would appear behind Lu Shihua, which was equivalent to more than half of the swordbearers present. Why? You actually chose to die? Ying Zheng's face was once again filled with panic, because in Ying Zheng's imagination, At most a few hundred people would choose to die because of hatred. As the previous cowardice of these sword-bearers had proven this point, Ying Zheng could unscrupulously tell all the good deeds he had done. However, Ying Zheng did not expect that after he told the truth about the 12 Zhu Wu, more than half of the sword-bearers would stand against him and choose to die together with Lu Shihua. Why? Why are you guys doing this? Ying Zheng asked, feeling very reluctant and puzzled. There is no why. I just feel that if I acknowledge someone like you as the emperor, I will never be happy for the rest of my life. I might as well have a good fight now and then die, Graceful Sword Immortal said as he looked at Ying Zheng. Ying Zheng, you used the lives of humans to exchange for the blood pearl of Zhu Wu, you killed hundreds of people for your great cause, and you framed Sword Immortal Shihua for your own benefit. We can pretend that we don't see any of these. All those who want to be emperors have done so for a long time. But in the history books, which emperor would dare to do something like releasing the 12 ancestors of sorcery and almost destroying the entire human race, the Black Palace Sword Immortal said. Ying Zheng, even if the dignity of us sword-bearers has been completely obliterated by you, we still have one last bit of faith in our hearts that you will never be able to obliterate. Today, we may all die here, but as long as we live, we will never let a beast like you ride over our head. Another immortal sword-bearer said. The words of these three also represented the thoughts of the 70,000 sword-bearers who chose to stand with Lu Shihua. I have also thought it through. A month ago, when I stood on the city walls of Yuzhang City, wasn't I also waiting for death? The Graceful Sword Immortal continued, back then, I died for humanity, and now, I'm going to die for humanity as well. It's laughable that I was fooled by a false life. I'd rather die than breathe the same air as someone like you. Good. Good. All of you are good. All of you are very good. In that case, all of you can die. Even if there is only one of you, I can create another human. Ying Zheng breathed out a long sigh. In an instant, the mighty dragon robe he was wearing was torn into pieces, while his body kept growing bigger and bigger. At last, he transformed back into the towering figure of a wizard ancestor. Everyone tightened their grip on the weapons in their hands. They knew that the final battle of their lives was about to come. This battle had to be fought beautifully. Just then, there was the sound of thunder and lightning exploding in the distant sky. The strange phenomenon that had appeared before appeared in the sky again. What's going on? Could it be that another sword-bearer has ascended to the throne? Both sides, who had been on the verge of a fight, were interrupted again. Everyone looked at the strange phenomenon in the distant sky in confusion. But what was different from Lu Shihua's ascension to the throne was that after the dragon and phoenix phenomenon passed, the strange phenomenon did not end. Immediately after, a huge Tai Chi diagram appeared in the sky. This Tai Chi diagram was so big that it seemed to cover the entire sky of Huaxia. And at the four corners of this Tai Chi diagram, there were 4 long swords that gleamed with cold light. They were like pillars that could support the entire sky. It was as if the entire world had been imprisoned by these 4 swords. Oh my God! Who is ascending to the throne? Such a strange phenomenon is simply unheard of. An immortal swordbearer looked at the scene in the sky in a daze. This swordbearer's words also represented the thoughts of everyone present. Whether it was seeing it with their own eyes, or the records in history books, or even those made-up romance television dramas, there had never been such a magical scene of ascension to the throne. This was a strange phenomenon that humans had never seen before. Emperor returns. In the sky, there was suddenly a deafening roar of thunder. This roar of thunder seemed to be speaking to the heavens, and everyone seemed to hear the 2 words Emperor returns in their ears. And with the appearance of these 2 words, all the strange phenomena receded like the tide. The 4 long swords retracted, and the Tai Chi diagram quickly disappeared. Finally, the pure blue sky appeared above everyone's heads again. 4 swords. Could it be? While all the other sword-bearers were still puzzled and had no idea what was going on, Ying Zheng had taken a step back involuntarily, and with just one kick, he crushed his favorite heaven-suppressing platform into pieces. Ying Zheng, you can go and die now. Beyond the sky, a sword light flashed. Ying Zheng's head and body divided. Chapter 1445. Who is it? Who is it? Looking at Ying Zheng's head, which was as big as a castle, rolling and rolling on the ground, the crowd was filled with amazement, and at the same time, they could not help but want to ask the same question. Who was it? Yet, he was able to chop off the head of the mighty Ying Zheng with just one strike of his sword. Was this man too strong, or was everything Ying Zheng had done just a bluff, and he was not as strong as he had shown himself to be? Everyone's hearts were filled with questions. They looked up into the sky eagerly, trying to find the person who had beheaded Ying Zheng with a single strike. However, as far as the eye could see, the sky was blue, and there was no sign of anyone else. Could it be another guy hiding in the dark? It's just like what happened in the Alps. Everyone couldn't help but think to themselves when they saw this scene. During the Battle of the Alps, humans were also facing a huge crisis of life and death. In the end, a sword came from beyond the heavens and chopped off the head of the powerful Virokana. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but feel that the scene that was happening now was exactly the same as the battle in the Alps hundreds of years ago. Could it be that the mysterious existence had made a move again? If it was really that existence who had made a move, everyone felt that this existence would most likely not show up. After all, it had never appeared hundreds of years ago, and it was unlikely that it would appear again now. Just as everyone was thinking about this, a figure appeared in the sky. Am I seeing a ghost? Seeing this figure, everyone could not help but rub their eyes. This figure had appeared so abruptly in front of them that they could not react at all. All the sword-bearers present were immortal sword-bearers. If this figure had appeared through the void, then no matter how fast he was, everyone would be able to sense the ripples in the void. But in fact, there were no ripples in the void. It was as if this figure had been there all along. Such an abrupt feeling was comparable to Shiroi Kuroko. No, this person's appearance was even more abrupt than Shiroi Kuroko. Master, your disciple is useless, and needs Master's help. Just as everyone was thinking about the identity of this figure who had suddenly appeared, Lu Shihua knelt in the air in front of this figure. Master! Hearing this form of address, even the slowest person would understand in an instant. The figure that suddenly appeared was Lu Shihua's master, the legendary Hong Jun sword immortal who had disappeared for 20 years. At this thought, everyone desperately rubbed their eyes again, trying to see the face of this figure. But what made them even more puzzled was that this figure was clearly standing in front of them. There was clearly no cover on his face, not even a trace of smoke. But when he looked at it, he felt as if there were clouds and mist shrouding him. It was as if something was blocking his own matters. Get up. This is all Master's fault. Master should have killed this beast before he left. Otherwise, humans wouldn't have suffered such a catastrophe. Lu Shihua's master lamented. As the voice rang out, the cloudy and misty feeling from before instantly disappeared without a trace. The silhouette's face was clearly displayed in front of everyone. It's sword deity Hong Jun. It's really sword deity Hong Jun. As the silhouette's face became clearer, everyone could not help but exclaim in unison. Although 20 years had passed, Guhan was still a legendary figure in this world. Most humans had seen videos related to Guhan on the internet and seen countless photos of Guhan. Therefore, they recognized the figure in front of them as the former Hong Jun sword deity Guhan at a glance. The crowd instantly became excited. No one expected that the sword-bearer who had disappeared for 20 years, who was once known as the unparalleled and the future #1 human Jendi, who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Kanzu and Jitian Jendi, had actually returned. Moreover, if this sword was really made by him just now, there was no doubt that this Hong Jun Jendi had really become the strongest Jendi in human history. At this thought, everyone's blood began to boil. This was great. Compared to Ying Zheng, who was a human leader halfway through his life, Guhan was a genuine human sword-bearer. He could make everyone feel more like they were on the same side. No, Guhan was on the same side. After witnessing Ying Zheng's perverse act, and witnessing Ji Yuhan killing Ying Zheng with just a single strike of his sword, everyone's blood began to boil. If it were not for the somewhat depressing atmosphere, they would have probably shouted Guhan's name. Many more young sword-bearers were curiously sizing up the legendary sword deity who had suddenly appeared. They wanted to see what this legendary sword-bearer who had disappeared for 20 years looked like. Of course, they were more curious about Guhan's current strength. Could he really kill Yingzheng with a single sword strike? If that was the case, wouldn't human beings become stronger than before? They might even be able to reclaim Earth. Everyone looked at Guhan eagerly, looking for a chance to talk to Guhan. Guhan, it's really you. A sword-bearer flew out from behind Lu Shihua and flew to Guhan's side. He stared at Guhan's body and said in disbelief, "It's me. Long time no see, brother Lu Ren." Guhan nodded and said with a smile. The person who appeared in front of him was Lu Ren. After 20 years, Zhu Lu had changed from a famed sword wielder to an immortal sword wielder. Moreover, the handsome young man from back then was no longer there. He had become an uncle with an unkempt beard. If it were not for Guhan's photographic memory, he might not have been able to recognize that the person in front of him was Lu Ren. You came back, from the seamless corridor?" Lu Ren asked excitedly. "Yes, although there were some twists and turns, I'm indeed back," Guhan said with a smile. "Guhan. Sword deity Hong Jun." Another person walked out. She was also an acquaintance of Guhan. She was one of Guhan's best friends in Shanhai Pass, Leslie Dracula. She had also become an immortal sword-bearer. Both of them were people who had close contact with Guhan. Their words made everyone believe that the human in front of them was indeed sword deity Hong Jun Guhan, who had dominated the world 20 years ago. He had returned. "Guhan, was it you who killed Yingzheng with a single sword strike just now?" Leslie Dracula could not hold back the curiosity in her heart and took the initiative to ask on behalf of the curious onlookers. "If you're asking, I was the one who killed him just now." Guhan nodded. Then, he looked at Yingzheng's body, which was still standing in front of him. It was incomparably magnificent, but it had lost its head. As for whether he's dead or not, I don't know. Are there any other acquaintances? Guhan looked at the other people behind Lu Shihua and hesitated for a moment. He then asked Zhu Luren and Leslie Dracula, those friends from back then, are they still around? "Some are still around." Hearing Guhan's question, Zhu Luren's face instantly turned a little ugly. "Of course, some of them are already dead." Then Toad Song, Chong Ruo, and Ashima. Guhan suddenly stopped mid-sentence. He then sighed and said, "Never mind, I don't want to ask about these now. Let's get rid of this trouble first." "Trouble? Are you talking about the first emperor? Yingzheng, that bastard?" Leslie Dracula was shocked. "Didn't you kill him with a single sword strike? Why is there still trouble? If his strength, which was equivalent to 24 Zhu Wus, was not just a bluff, then he shouldn't have died so easily," Guhan said faintly. As soon as Guhan said this, Yingzheng's stiff and motionless body that had lost its head began to move again. The skin on the surface of his body began to undulate as if there were countless mice flying under Yingzheng's skin. In the end, all the undulations were concentrated on Yingzheng's neck. A black object emerged from Yingzheng's bloody neck. After a few seconds, everyone realized that the black object was actually hair. Finally, a complete head grew out from the neck. Looking at the face of this head, it was Yingzheng's face. "See, I told you, this guy won't die so easily." Ji Yuhan pointed at Yingzheng's head and said indifferently. The rest of the sword-bearers were frightened by the scene in front of them and took a step back in unison. When they saw Ji Yuhan was still standing in front of them, the fear in their hearts receded a little. However, they still stared at Yingzheng with great vigilance, who had regrown his head. "Brother Guhan, is this the greeting gift you are giving to an old friend? Aren't you being too unkind? After all, we are good friends who love each other and hate each other." Yingzheng's eyes opened instantly. His bright eyes were fixed on Guhan, and at the same time, he spoke in a slightly sad tone. "Then, what else do you want me to give you? Do you want me to cut off your limbs again?" Guhan said faintly. "Guhan, you are too arrogant. If you hadn't sneak attacked me when I was unprepared, I wouldn't have been beheaded by you. I will definitely make you pay for this." Yingzheng's expression instantly turned cold. "Great. I also have a debt to settle with you." Guhan casually pulled out a golden long sword from his waist. It was engraved with flowers, birds, insects, and fishes. Using your blood to seal my emperor sword can barely be considered as complementing each other. Shenyuan sword. Seeing the sword in Guhan's hand, Ying Zheng's pupils shrank instantly, and then his eyes were filled with greed. As the former and current first emperor, Ying Zheng had been drooling over this legendary Shenyuan sword, the ancestor of all swords, the symbol of the emperor's way and humanity, and the strongest emperor saw. Chapter 1446. Very well, I also want to know whether Gongsun Shenyuan, the leader of a mere tribal alliance, is stronger, or I, the real first emperor who has unified the world, is stronger. This Shenyuan sword is just the right weapon for me to use against Gongsun Shenyuan, Ying Zheng said proudly. In his eyes, he was already comparable to the yellow emperor Shenyuan. But this was also Ying Zheng's usual temperament. Then let's fight. Guhan smiled and unsheathed the Shenyuan sword in his hand. Alas! What a pity, such a good palace, such a good Yuzhang city, will be destroyed by the two of us again. Ying Zheng looked at the palace that he had spent 12 days to build and said with regret. It could be seen that Ying Zheng really liked this palace. Don't worry, this palace will be fine, Guhan said. Oh, it seems that you and I are thinking the same thing. Let's go outside the city and fight. After saying that, Ying Zheng broke through the void and was ready to go out of the city. No, I think you have misunderstood me, Guhan shook his head and said, what I mean is, I only need one sword to kill you, and it won't hurt a blade of grass or a tree here. You! Ying Zheng was stunned at first, then all the blood in his body rushed to his head, and his eyes turned bright red. Ying Zheng thought that he was arrogant and savage enough. But he did not expect that Guhan was even more arrogant and savage than him. I've said it before. The reason you could kill me just now was because you shamelessly launched a sneak attack on me. If I had concentrated and used my full strength to fight you, do you think you could still kill me? This emperor will crush you into. Before Ying Zheng could finish his words, and when everyone was curious about what else Ying Zheng was going to say, another head the size of a castle flew up and rolled to the ground, creating a large pit. Then, it bounced up from the pit, rolled a few times, and finally lay quietly on the ground. Sorry, I was wrong. Killing you will still hurt the flowers and plants. Ji Han looked at the back of the figure and the huge crater created by the head, and said with some pity. One sword. Another sword. Oh my God. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have dared to imagine it. In fact, when Ying Zheng said that he was beheaded because of Guhan's sneak attack, the crowd felt that it was quite reasonable. It was true that the sword strike came too suddenly, and before Ying Zheng could react and defend himself, his head was chopped off by Ji Han. It was a very normal thing. Therefore, most people accepted Ying Zheng's explanation and thought that there would be a fierce battle between Ying Zheng and Guhan, and the battle would last for 3 days and 3 nights before the winner could be decided. But when Ying Zheng, who had already had one head cut off, was beheaded again, the crowd finally realized that Guhan's strength had reached a terrible level. Oh, yes, they did not know if Ying Zheng's head would grow back again. Sure enough, Ying Zheng's head had grown back once again, and the 2 heads that were chopped off earlier were still rolling on the ground. Their eyes were wide open, as if they were staring blankly at the world. Until the moment when the 2 heads were chopped off, they had no idea how they were chopped off. Guhan, you are despicable. Can't you wait for me to tell you to start before we fight? Ying Zheng's head grew back for the second time and said the same thing at the same time. But no matter how one listened to this sentence, it sounded full of grievance, like a pitiful child. All right then. I'll give you 10 seconds to get ready. I'll count down from 10, and then I'll swing my sword and kill you. You must be ready this time. Guhan smiled, and there was a hint of doting in his eyes. Oh, doting was a terrible adjective. Hey. Ying Zheng said no more. His body began to make a booming sound, and then all the muscles in his body bulged, making him seem to have expanded by 2 or 3 times. It was as if he had transformed from a normal human into a world champion bodybuilder. At the same time, a layer of faintly discernible earthy yellow light began to shine on the surface of Ying Zheng's body. At the same time, the earthy yellow light was the most concentrated on Yingzheng's neck, and there was a faint feeling that it had condensed into a substance. Isn't this the ability of Hu Tu, virtue carrying thick soil? One of the immortal sword-bearers exclaimed. After fighting with the 12 Zhu Wu for 3 years, they had a very clear understanding of the 12 Zhu Wu's abilities. The earthy yellow light that Yingzheng had condensed on his body was Hu Tu's unique skill, virtue carrying thick soil. Among the 12 Zhu Wus, Hu Tu was the one with the strongest defensive ability, and this skill, virtue carrying thick soil, had raised the defensive ability of Hu Tu to the extreme. It was said that this skill could gather all the defensive ability of the earth on Earth into Hu Tu's body. In actual combat, no human had ever broken through the defense of virtue carrying thick soil. Even when Hu Tu was killed in the end, it was only during the cooldown period when Hu Tu's skill was exhausted. Otherwise, with the enhancement of virtue carrying thick soil, no one could hurt her at all. And obviously, the reason why Yingzheng could possess Hu Tu's ability was because he had eaten the blood pearl of Zhu Wu. Yingzheng had indeed gathered the power equivalent to that of 12 Zhu Wus. Come on. If you're not afraid of breaking your sword, come at me. After using the skill, Yingzheng immediately looked at Guhan and said in an extremely arrogant manner. With the defense of virtue carrying thick soil, Yingzheng did not believe that Guhan could still chop off his head with one strike. 0. At this time, Guhan's countdown finally reached 0. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in their throats. They did not know whether Guhan could break through the virtue carrying thick soil that had left everyone feeling helpless and unable to attack. The earthy yellow light of virtue carrying thick soil was still wrapped around Yingzheng's neck, but Yingzheng's head had already flown up again, and this time, it flew higher than the previous 2 times. It took 7 or 8 seconds before it fell from the sky, and finally, it smashed directly onto the roof of Weiyang Palace, the main hall that Yingzheng had prepared to hold the court meeting. The entire Weiyang Palace was smashed into pieces, and at the same time, a pair of blank eyes were left behind. The 3 heads fell in different positions, and then looked in different directions, which had a peculiar charm to it. This is a little too strong. This is the defense of virtue carrying thick soil. Countless sword-bearers said in a daze. They could not believe that the virtue carrying thick soil, which had once made everyone feel helpless, was actually broken by Guhan with one strike. No, Hongjun Jendi did not break through the virtue carrying thick soil. Don't you see that the earthy yellow power of the earth is still on Yingzheng's neck? I can feel that the power of the earth contained in the virtue carrying thick soil has not changed at all from beginning to end. A voice sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone quickly looked in the direction of the voice and saw Longsha Jendi, who was old and could only rely on the support of 2 people, appear. Your Majesty, you've finally come. When everyone saw Longsha Jendi appear, they said with some surprise. Since 12 days ago, when Yingzheng announced that he was going to establish a human empire, Longsha Jendi and Frost Jendi had not appeared in front of humans again. Some people said that these 2 Jendi were killed by Yingzheng, some people said that these 2 Jendi were imprisoned by Yingzheng, and some people said that Longsha Jendi and Frost Jendi had already ascended to immortality. In any case, these 2 Jendi didn't have a good ending according to everyone's guess. Until now, when Longsha Jendi appeared, everyone let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that these 2 Jendi were all safe. Your Majesty Longsha, long time no see. Junior Guhan greets you. Seeing Longsha Jendi appear, even the incomparably arrogant Guhan took the initiative to bow to Longsha Jendi. No need, no need. In this lifetime, I was able to see my little friend Guhan come back safely, and also to get rid of the scourge Yingzheng for humanity. Even if this old man ascends to immortality today, this old man can die in peace. Longsha Jendi grasped both of Guhan's hands and said with incomparable excitement, "The heavens have pity on me." This old man thought that this old man would become the sinner of humanity, the sinner who pushed humanity into the abyss of Yingzheng. The heavens have pity on me, you have come back, humanity can finally be saved. Humanity still has a future. This old man knew 20 years ago that sooner or later you too would be the ones to save humanity. That's great. Longsha Jendi's eyes drooped with 2 drops of turbid tears. At this age, with this experience, and having experienced so many things, Long Shijendi, who should have completely lost his tears, once again shed tears at this time. One could well imagine the excitement and joy in Long Shijendi's heart. The two of us. Guhan stared blankly for a moment, and then immediately reacted. He asked with some urgency and some fear, "Your Majesty, Ling, she won't, how do I say this? I can't say yes. I can't say no. I can only say that she still has one breath hanging in her throat." Long Shijendi sighed sorrowfully. She is just a little girl, but now she looks even older than this old man. This old man has let her down. If this old man had believed her earlier and imprisoned Yingzheng with her, she would not have ended up like this. Really? It's good that she's not dead. It's good that she still has one breath hanging in her throat. Hearing Long Shijendi's words, Guhan heaved a long sigh of relief, as if he had finally let go of something he had to choose. At the same time, Yingzheng's head also grew for the third time. Gu. Yingzheng's mouth opened. Noisy. Guhan's mouth closed. Yingzheng's head flew up again. Chapter 1447. Will Yingzheng's head keep growing out like this? Watching Guhan chop off Yingzheng's head for the third time, Long Shijendi's face twitched, and then he asked with some fear. If Yingzheng's head kept growing out, wouldn't Guhan have to chop it off here for the rest of his life? Isn't this a little too terrifying? I don't know. Guhan shrugged his shoulders. You have to ask Yingzheng himself to know. But you can't keep chopping off like this. Long Shijendi felt even more pain in the ass, and then he suggested, wouldn't it be endless? Why don't you not only chop off his head, but also chop his body into minced meat? I don't believe that his head will grow out again. It's okay, chop it off first. I don't believe that his head can't be chopped off, Guhan said with a smile. At this time, Yingzheng's head just happened to grow out again. Guhan. You can't do this. Let's have a good discussion. Well, before Yingzheng could finish his words, his head flew off for the fourth time, and then a large building that he had planned as a harem was smashed into pieces. This made the onlookers, who hated Yingzheng to death, feel a little sorry for Yingzheng. This child was really too pitiful. Before he could finish his words, his head was chopped off. Otherwise, Yingzheng would have finished his word. The sword-bearers couldn't help but feel deeply sorry for Yingzheng. It was really too tragic. Seeing Yingzheng's head fly off again, Long Shijendi's body couldn't help but tremble. He pursed his pale lips, and then asked Guhan with some fear. Guhan. Forgive this old man for taking advantage of my seniority, but I'm curious, to what extent is your strength now? 12 days ago, this old man clearly saw Yingzheng's strength. One punch of his was equivalent to the strength of 27 Zhu Wus, and now you can kill Yingzheng with one sword strike, then your strength is, what is my strength? Actually, I don't know either. After all, I haven't met an opponent who can force me to use my full strength, Guhan said with a smile on his face, and his words instantly made all the sword-bearers who had pricked up their ears to have their hearts almost jump out of their chests. Even when facing a formidable opponent like Yingzheng, Guhan did not use his full strength. So, what kind of opponent would deserve Guhan to use his full strength? Everyone, don't misunderstand. Looking at the horrified faces of the surrounding sword-wielding men, Guhan shook his head and said calmly, my strength is not as terrifying as you think. In fact, all of you have been deceived by Yingzheng. Yingzheng's strength is not what you think it is, which is equivalent to the strength of 27 Zhu Wus. In my opinion, I'm afraid Yingzheng's current strength is even weaker than an ordinary Zhu Wu. Even if you are Master Long Zhendi, if you were allowed to regain your youth, perhaps you could also kill this beast. What? It could be said that everyone was shocked today. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect to hear such a sentence from Guhan's mouth. Yingzheng's overall strength was actually inferior to even Long Shijendi. That was impossible. Brother Jiyu Han, are you sure you're not mistaken? All of us have seen with our own eyes that Yingzheng's attack is equivalent to the strength of 24 Zhu Wus. Moreover, when he attacked those immortal sword-grade sword-wielding brothers, our brothers were also killed by him without any ability to resist. His strength is indeed so formidable, how could he be inferior to me? Long Shijendi said in disbelief. This is just the strength that you see. Guhan looked at Ying Zheng's head that was about to grow out again, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Yes, in terms of pure physical strength, perhaps Ying Zheng has indeed reached the strength equivalent to 27 Zhu Wus, just as you said. However, this is a strength that he simply cannot control. You only saw the might of his one punch, but you did not notice that his body has actually become very uncoordinated, and his movements have also become very stiff. The improvement of strength should be comprehensive. Strength, speed, and reflexes should all be improved at the same time. However, Ying Zheng seems to have only improved his own strength, so that his punch can reach the strength of 27 Zhu Wus, but in other aspects, it is exactly the same as before, without any change. That's why his movements seem so stiff. At this point, Guhan was once again defeated, because at this time, Ying Zheng's head had grown out for the 5th time. Ji Yu Han. My head is endless. It's impossible for you to kill me. Let's have a good discussion. Why don't we divide our territories into states from now on? Asia, Europe, and Australia will all be yours, and the rest will be under my rule. Ying Zheng finally finished what he wanted to say this time, but that was all, because Ying Zheng's head flew up for the 5th time and smashed his imperial kitchen to smithereens. Moreover, I think that Ying Zheng may not be able to control his own body anymore. Guhan nonchalantly took back his sword, and then continued to discuss with Long Shijendi. Guhan. Why do you have such a guess? Long Shijendi's face twitched uncontrollably. This was the first time that Long Shijendi had encountered such an atmosphere of chatting while beheading people's heads, and it really gave people a very subtle feeling. Your Majesty, think about it, with Ying Zheng's character, after being beheaded by me again and again, shouldn't his first action be to escape? Shouldn't he escape as far as possible the moment he resurrected, instead of talking nonsense with me here, saying that he intends to divide the provinces from me? Moreover, if I were Ying Zheng, I would certainly not let my head grow out again. After all, being beheaded is not an interesting experience. A somewhat mocking smile appeared on Guhan's face. Then, could it be like this? Is it because Ying Zheng has taken too many Zhu Wu blood beads in one go, so he hasn't digested the power of these Zhu Wu blood beads in a short time, so that he is unable to control his own power? Long Shijendi had begun to accept Guhan's statement, and at the same time, he also put forward some of his own speculations based on Guhan's statement. How would I know? He has to ask himself. The tip of the Shenyuan sword in Guhan's hand trembled, because Ying Zheng's head had grown out for the 6th time. But this time, Ying Zheng no longer spoke, but stubbornly raised his neck, looked at Guhan, and had an expression that said, I have nothing to say, you can just cut off my head, I will die a heroic death. It seemed that poor Ying Zheng had accepted his fate, and at the same time, lost the will to resist, and could only rely on Liu Hulan. But this time, Guhan was not in a hurry to cut off Ying Zheng's head. Instead, he strolled in front of Ying Zheng and looked at him. It was a somewhat funny scene. A lone giant was standing in the palace, and a human, who was as small as a mosquito to him, was standing in front of the giant. It stood to reason that the giant should have killed the human with a slap, and it was natural for the giant to decide the life and death of the mosquito. But the fact was the opposite. It was this little ant that was deciding the life and death of the giant. It was indeed a somewhat funny scene, but it also made people feel very emotional. You should have heard the conversation between me and His Majesty Longsha just now. Then answer His Majesty Longsha's question. Have you really digested the power of 12 Zhu Wu blood beads? Guhan asked Ying Zheng. Humph. Don't even think about it, I will never tell you the answer. Ying Zheng still stubbornly replied. Of course, this Ying Zheng would only face one ending, and that was, his head would fly off for the 6th time. Alas, at this time, the audience was already very used to this scene, so although Ying Zheng's head had smashed the Palace of Compassionate and Peaceful this time, it did not cause any waves, and no one was even interested in taking a look at Ying Zheng's head. It seems that Ying Zheng has indeed not digested the power of 12 Zhu Wu blood beads. Otherwise, with his character, he would have taken the initiative to admit it instead of shaking his head in front of me. Guhan touched his nose and said. At the same time, Long Shijendi nodded his head. This was indeed Ying Zheng's character. It seemed that Ying Zheng really had not digested the power of 12 Zuwu blood beads. But even if Ying Zheng has not digested the power of 12 Zuwu blood beads, it is impossible for me to be his opponent. Guhan, what you said just now is still a bit too much. Long Shijendi went back to the previous topic and said. Oh, since your Majesty Long Shi has such doubts, why don't we give it a try? Guhan said with a smile. How to give it a try? Long Shijendi asked curiously. It's simple, I won't take any action next, let Shihua deal with him. Guhan immediately said to Lu Shihua, who was waiting respectfully on the side, Shihua, you will deal with Ying Zheng next. Remember to cut off his head like me. Yes. Master. It could be seen that Lu Shihua was also somewhat hesitant about this and felt that he could not be Ying Zheng's opponent. But since this was Guhan's order, Lu Shihua did not have any thoughts of refusing, but carried his seraphim sword and stood silently in front of Ying Zheng, waiting for Ying Zheng to resurrect again. Guhan, you have gone too far in humiliating me. When Ying Zheng's head was found for the 7th time, Ying Zheng became extremely angry. It seemed that he could really hear the conversation between Guhan and Long Shijendi when he had no head. I have nothing to say about being defeated by you, but don't think that your useless apprentice can also suppress me. Is that so? Guhan gave Ying Zheng a disdainful look and said, haven't you been suppressed by my apprentice for 16 years? I thought you had long been accustomed to it. You. Ying Zheng glared at Ji Yuhan, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Ji Yuhan's words had indeed hit Ying Zheng's sore spot. Ying Zheng had indeed been suppressed by Lu Shihua for 16 years. Otherwise, Ying Zheng would not have colluded with the ancestor of sorcerer to kill Lu Shihua. Very well. Today, I will use your apprentice's blood to let you know who is suppressing who in the end, said Ying Zheng loudly. Then, he threw a punch at Lu Shihua's head. However, Lu Shihua moved sideways and, to his surprise, easily avoided Ying Zheng's punch. Then, he slashed his sword at Ying Zheng's neck. As a result, Ying Zheng's neck flew up for the 7th time. Once again, everyone was so scared that their eyeballs almost fell out. Had Guhan's lineage become so terrifying? Not only was Master a pervert, but even his apprentice was also perverted to this extent. Chapter 1448. Master. Lu Shihua walked to Guhan's side in a somewhat daze. Long Shijendi cupped his fists towards Guhan and congratulated him. Congratulations, Hongjun Jendi. You are already so powerful, and the disciple you taught is also so powerful. I, Long Shijendi, really admire you. At the same time, he sighed with emotion and said with a bit of jealousy. Guhan and his disciple were both Jendi, and both of them were so powerful. It seemed that in the future, Guhan's achievements would inevitably surpass Kanzu's. Perhaps, it would not be impossible for him to kill all the Yuan Kus and let the human race return to the happy time 1,000 years ago. In this way, Guhan's name would really go down in history, and he would enjoy the incense offerings of the future generations. Just like Emperor Yang and Emperor Huang, he would become one of the human ancestors that all the Chinese people, no, all the people on earth would worship together. As for himself, he was probably just a little flower by the side of this ancestor. To be able to obtain a dozen or so lines of words was perhaps his greatest fortune. Long Shijendi thought with emotion. No. It's not that simple. Guhan's expression became extremely serious. He took a deep look at Lu Shihua beside him, and then asked Lu Shihua, Shihua, how much strength did you use just now? Replying to Master, Disciple really did not have much strength. It was just a probing attack, and Ying Zheng's head had already fallen off. Lu Shihua looked at the 12-winged angel sword in his hand, and said to Guhan in a somewhat absent-minded manner. No, even if Ying Zheng's strength is uncoordinated and uncontrollable, it is impossible for you to kill him with just one sword attack. There must be something strange here. Guhan looked at Ying Zheng, whose head was still growing out, and then looked at the 7 heads rolling around Ying Zheng, and an ominous premonition welled up in his heart. Just then, Ying Zheng's head grew out for the 8th time. You go. Guhan's sword chi rolled down, and a famous sword-level swordbearer was pulled to his side by Guhan. "Your Majesty Hongjun, what can I do for you?" This sword-bearer was somewhat courageous. Being pulled to his side by Guhan's sword chi, he did not show any expression, but instead looked eager to try. "Go and chop off Ying Zheng's head for me," Guhan said to this famous sword-level swordbearer. "What?" The famed sword-grade sword wielder was obviously taken aback. Ji Yuhan actually asked him to chop off Ying Zheng's head. Wasn't this a little too funny? Wasn't it a bit too ridiculous? But when he saw Ji Yuhan's piercing gaze, this naturally courageous famed swordsman immediately nodded and said, "Leave it to me. I will definitely chop off Ying Zheng's head. Don't worry, I will protect you. You just have to swing your sword at Ying Zheng's neck." After saying that, Guhan sent this famous sword-level swordbearer to Ying Zheng. This time, Ying Zheng's body did not even make any movement to block, and this famous sword-level swordbearer directly approached his neck. Then, this famous sword-level swordbearer very straightforwardly used his own sword Maiden to chop off Ying Zheng's neck. After a few seconds of delay, Ying Zheng's neck rolled down once again. This time, it was the head that rolled down. "I killed Ying Zheng. I chopped off Ying Zheng's head." This famous sword-level swordbearer looked at his own hands in surprise, unable to restrain the excitement in his heart, and cried out loudly, "What's going on? That's impossible." Even Longshe Jendi began to feel that something was wrong. Even if Ying Zheng really could not control his body and did not consume the power of Zhu Wu's blood bead, he should not be so weak that a famous sword-level swordbearer could chop off his head. "I'm afraid there's something wrong with these heads." Guhan's eyes turned cold, and the Shenyuan sword in his hand instantly slashed at a head that was rolling down on the ground. Just now, the head could have been easily chopped off, but now, it had become extremely hard. Guhan's slash could only leave a bloodstain on the face of the head, and no other traces could be seen. "Ying Zheng, tell me honestly, what's wrong with your head? Is your Zhu Wu blood bead in these heads now?" At this time, Ying Zheng's head grew out for the 9th time. Guhan immediately flew in front of Ying Zheng and asked. Ying Zheng opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but no sound came out. It was as if this head no longer belonged to Ying Zheng. What happened next shocked everyone once again. It was obvious that Ji Yuhan did not even touch Ying Zheng's head, but Ying Zheng's head still fell off. In other words, Ying Zheng's head was not chopped off, but it fell off on its own. This made everyone feel a strange fear in their hearts. They feared that there was something incredible hidden in this matter. "Longshe Jendi, I want to ask you something, and you must answer me correctly." With a solemn look on his face, Guhan returned to Longshe Jendi's side, looked at Longshe Jendi and said, "Guhan, go ahead, as long as I know, I will definitely answer you." Longshe Jendi nodded and said, "Well, may I ask, when you killed 12 Zhu Wu 12 days ago, did a dimensional vortex appear?" Guhan asked in a somewhat urgent tone. "No, absolutely not." Longshe Jendi replied subconsciously, and then immediately reacted, and asked in a somewhat trembling tone, Could it be that 12 Zhu Wu is not dead? If a Yuan Ku died, then there must be a dimensional vortex to bring him back. This was an unchanging truth for the past 1,000 years. But the battle situation 10 days ago was so intense that everyone was fighting with their lives on the line, so they did not notice the fact that 12 Zhu Wu's dimensional vortex did not appear. Since the dimensional vortex did not appear, there was only one explanation, that is, 12 Zhu Wus were not dead, they were still alive. Longshe Jendi was so frightened because he understood this point. If 12 Zhu Wus were really not dead, then wouldn't these heads be? "Longshe Jendi, can Yuzhong City's dimensional wall be activated now?" Guhan immediately asked Longshe Jendi, but Longshe Jendi was at a loss. He had been hiding for more than 10 days, so how could he have the time to care about the dimensional wall? He did not know what the current situation of Yuzhong City's dimensional wall system was. Destroyed. Yuzhong City's dimensional wall and the dimensional wall system in the core area were all destroyed by His Majesty Ying Zheng. Ying Zheng said that with his protection, human beings would never need the dimensional wall system again. The one who spoke was Lu Yin, who had been kneeling on the ground. Even when he spoke, his forehead was still pressed to the ground, and he did not dare to raise it. You still have the nerve to speak. Lu Shihua immediately wanted to reprimand his younger brother, but was stopped by Gu Han. Gu Han gave Lu Yin a deep look, and then said, "Are you sure about this? Is Yuzhang City's dimensional wall really destroyed?" "Actually, it's not completely destroyed." Lu Yin hesitated for a moment and said, "I personally took down the core Emperor Zerg of the dimensional wall system and handed it to His Majesty Ying Zheng. So, if we can find the Emperor Zerg and put it back on, it should be restored in 24 hours, 24 hours. Sigh. It seems that we can't count on it." Gu Han's face tightened. At this time, something even more bizarre happened. Two heads grew out of Ying Zheng's neck at the same time, and then the two heads rolled down the moment they grew out. Then, he counted the heads on the ground and found out that Ying Zheng had lost 11 heads at the moment. "There's no time." Gu Han glanced at the dense crowd on the ground. There were 400 million people squeezed into a city. Unlike the swordbearers who knew the details immediately, many ordinary people had just learned about the sudden appearance of Hongjun Jendi, who had been missing for 20 years. Almost everyone was squeezing toward the core area, hoping to see Gu Han's face clearly. Such a crowded crowd could only lead to one result, and that was, when the battle began, the aftermath of a random battle could kill tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people. "What should we do?" Long Shijendi's old face became even older. He had figured out a lot of things and was well aware that 12 Zhu Wu would most likely be resurrected again, and the heads that rolled down were the precursor to 12 Zhu Wu's resurrection. And no matter how strong Gu Han was, it was impossible for him to take care of the safety of so many people at the same time. Once the battle broke out here, the entire Yuzhang city would inevitably become a scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. "Let's move these heads out at once. We must not let them resurrect in Yuzhang city," Long Shijendi said excitedly. "It's useless." Gu Han shook his head. "Without the protection of the dimensional wall, it will be easy for 12 Zhu Wu to enter Yuzhang city, and there will be a lot of live." "What should we do?" Long Shijendi was at a loss. Now that the dimensional wall was gone, wouldn't the resurrection of 12 Zhu Wu mean that humans could only wait for death? "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have destroyed the dimensional wall system." Lu Yin, who was kneeling on the ground, cried. "It's okay. I have a way." Gu Han patted Long Shijendi's shoulder. When Long Shijendi, who was at a loss, heard Gu Han's words, he suddenly felt very relieved, as if there was nothing that Gu Han couldn't do. "Go." Gu Han's lips closed, and the 12 swords behind him flew out at the same time, flying in 12 different directions, forming a huge circle, encircling most of Yuzhang city. "Open." Gu Han's lips moved again, and Long Shijendi was keenly aware that, at this moment, the rules of the entire void seemed to have changed. With the 12 swords as the pillar, the membrane between the void and reality was forcibly torn apart, and then a void gate surrounded the entire Yuzhang city, like a complete circular wall, was opened. "Your Majesty Long Shi, and everyone, I'll have to trouble you to let everyone enter the void gate. I think as long as these people hide in the void, they should not be affected by the battle below," Gu Han said to Long Shijendi. "This old man understands. This old man will do it." Long Shijendi was overjoyed and immediately led all the swordbearers to the crowd and began to urge them to enter the void gate. But things did not go as smoothly as imagined. When the ordinary people saw the dark void gate, they instinctively felt fear. At the same time, because of Ying Zheng's perverse behavior, many people who did not know the truth thought that this was some kind of horrible prison or something, and were struggling and unwilling to enter the void gate opened by Gu Han. Seeing that the last head of Ying Zheng was about to grow out, all the swordbearers who saw this scene were burning with anxiety. The situation suddenly fell into a very bad situation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.